What's going on, everybody? Welcome to GameList episode 3? 4?
Three. Well,
Something like that.
technically four, but three.
Yes, I'm Jake. He's Kaulin. Oh, he's this way.
I'm Kaulin.
And down here, for the first time, we have a guest. FrateTrain, welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
Nice to have you. It's awesome. We're gonna get another voice, and we called on FrateTrain. He's a Twitch streamer as well. We roll in the same circles, if you will, because let me tell you, the guy is gaming, and he's been playing a lot of the stuff that we're gonna be talking about today. And your boy over here has been slacking a little bit. The Final Fantasy fan himself has not played Final Fantasy, so we're calling in the big shots to speak to what has to be done. And go figure, Colin has, and I haven't. I don't know.
Yeah, that's insane, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a big mess, but nonetheless, we've got so much to go over. It was a very nice month of gaming, and we always started off the same way. However, I typically ditch it over to Colin right off the bat. What you been playing, dude? Today, I asked myself, what you been playing, Jake? And I am happy to report that I have been playing what may end up being my game of the year? Kirby and the Forgotten Land?
Really?
It's a front runner right now. Yes. Yes. It is so good. It's so charming. It is such a breath of fresh air. We will obviously, I think we'll talk and we'll recap some Elden Ring stuff at some point during this episode, because obviously the first half of March certainly consisted of playing a lot of that as well. But ooh. Freight, you interested in 3D platformers at all?
I am. I haven't had a chance to actually spend a whole lot of time playing Kirby. I played as the player 2 to my wife for a little bit.
You've played it?
Oh.
I played it a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like 2 levels. It is gorgeous for what it is. It is absolutely a gorgeous game. Game of the year, though? Not sure.
We'll see.
I haven't seen enough of it myself.
This is why we separate our lists, so I don't have to bend to Colin's will. I haven't played any of his top 5 games of last year. He was ragging on me about it.
Yeah, for real. And I even played Kingdom Hearts for you, and you can't.
We'll get there. No spoilers.
So Freight, you actually mentioned that you played as player 2. I hear that player 2 in this game kind of just like is along for the ride. You don't really do much.
Yeah, it does fall a little flat. Because whenever I was, stepping into that player 2 slot, I expected to be, like a blue Kirby or a yellow Kirby, something to where I could, enjoy that feel of playing a Kirby game. But you play as the Waddle Dee, and you get a little spear that you throw, and that's really it. I mean, you're really there to keep Kirby alive. That's your job.
You lose all of those transformation powers. You lose, I mean, honestly, a lot of the charm. It definitely feels like a tacked on addition. It's one of those things where it's like, I knock it for existing, but I'm happy it does exist too, because the alternative is just no player 2. So it's nice that it's an option, but in reality, as far as like a single player platformer go, I mean, I think the co-op in Kirby is still more ample than the co-op in Mario Odyssey, I would say. But truthfully, I haven't played either. So
I mean, wasn't it the same problem with Mario Galaxy though too? Because you just played as the little star, didn't you?
Yeah. Luma maybe, but the thing, you pretty much just shot and you moved the waggle controller. That's my type of thing, because that's my least favorite part of Galaxy. But as far as my single player experience with Kirby goes, I'm not putting it at number 1 on my list. I'm going to put it on my list this time. I think I enjoy it more than Pokemon. And truly, there's only 3 games that are even in the running for my game of the year right now, and that's Legends Arceus, Kirby, and Elden Ring. Everything else I've played is, good, not great. But
what
so
different games, man.
I know.
Elden Ring and Kirby for game of the year.
I know. Well, that's like part of why I think Kirby is just hitting so right for me right now. And I mean, at this point, listen, it's so strange that it goes so hand in hand with Elden Ring, but I think forever in my life, because of the time frame in which it was released, like things wrapped up with Elden Ring, and then about a week later, I was kind of staring down the barrel of Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And one of the things that we talked about since the last time was like, I mean, I was putting in 8-hour days minimum on my Elden Ring, crunching that game out. Ended up finishing it in about 90 hours, I want to say, level 120 or something like that. And Listen, I like cheery things. I like Kingdom Hearts. I like Kirby. I like pastel colors. And being in that world of Elden Ring for so long took its toll on me, man. I felt like I got beat up at the end of the night sometimes.
Well, and I'll have it noted, I still have not finished Elden Ring.
It's a lot of game.
It's a lot. It really is.
It's so much. I still have not finished it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
no
I've got
points against you.
Yeah. There's a lot of points that I've realized about Elden Ring, but we'll get onto that in the future. But one more little thing about Kirby. So y'all are talking about how the multiplayer is a little lackluster, and Kirby, by definition, is like a children's game. Do you think that the second player is so lackluster just to try to like edge more kids into the door, make it more accessible for even smaller kids?
I think it works twofold too. Of like, I've heard a couple different gaming outlets cover Kirby so far, and I think like depending on the age range and capabilities of the person that's playing, I feel like playing it with a spouse or playing it with a friend that's like equal as far as like gaming capabilities go is where it's going to not look the best. But if you're playing it with a kid who is terrible at video games or just wants to pitch in a little bit, having them take that player 2 role is fantastic. I'm assuming they get to feel like they're doing something, you're kind of guiding the way, you can move the game along. And then on the other hand of that, you would be able to, if the kid is a little bit more advanced and still getting their wits about them, you can take that player 2 role and just kind of assist them, maybe point them in the right direction. You have a feel for what's going on and you could probably see what the next step is and can guide them in that direction, which I think is cool as well. But from a, we've talked a lot about the multiplayer. From a strictly single player experience, I've had such a good time just like being in those worlds. They're so much smaller and more concise than it's very easy to compare to Mario Jesus Christ, how many times can I do that on my podcast? To Mario Odyssey, where Mario Odyssey, you get in and there are these gigantic sandboxes that are frankly overwhelming. I didn't come close to 100%ing Mario Odyssey. You get in there and there's 75 different stars or whatever you need to collect every time you hop in, whereas Kirby has these like really concise goals every time you get in there, and there might be like a secret that you need to uncover, you might need to figure out and have another run to accomplish what it's asking you to do. But there's this sense of like, I am not a completionist in any way, yet I'm only on the second or third world of Kirby, but everything that I've done so far, I've 100%ed. I've gone back through the level, I've beat the boss in the time frame or with the power that it's asked me to do so. It just it just feels like a very tight like package. It's really, really well done, and it's just, I want to say it's like the best Kirby has ever felt, and it's definitely the best Kirby has ever looked. And God, to bring it all back around, it is so pleasant. The demo does an injustice. It cuts out some of the stuff from the opening scene. If I don't even want to like plug my own Twitch for it, I did play the opening hours of Kirby, but after you play the tutorial level and you get the opening credits with the title card, which if you know me at all, I love title cards in video games, there is the most entertaining cutscene that I've ever seen in not just a Kirby game, but in a video game for the actual intro. It is absolutely gaming bliss is what it is. Really, really loving Kirby. But
I'll have to check it out.
It's enough about that little gaming puffball. Let's hop in.
Definitely worth a play. Even if you don't finish it, it's at least worth a play.
Yeah.
For sure. I can't agree more. Definitely a highlight for me so far this year.
You know what
definitely
isn't
this month.
Worth a play, Jake?
What is not worth a play?
That was a layup. Come on. A layup.
Final Fantasy? I don't know. You guys have the opinion on that.
Next slide. Next slide.
Hold on. I'm switching the slides around. If we want to talk about Chocobo GP, is that the direction that you'd like to go in?
Yeah, that was the way I was going.
Chocobo GP is a living nightmare, man. I
was so disappointed.
Yeah. Did you purchase? Did you buy it?
Oh no.
Me either.
I was so ready glad I did not.
I know. The best thing they did, arguably the worst thing they did for their sales, was to offer a light version, a free version, so that you could hop in there and see what the game had to offer. And now looking at it in retrospect, the conversation online has transitioned into basically criticizing the fuck out of this game because of the nightmarish way that it paywalls their progression in a full price video game. But in the light version, the night that it came out, I hopped on at midnight and I was so ready to pre-order it, but I don't know, for some reason I didn't. I just wanted to hold out. I knew that free version was coming, and I was just like, let me just hop into it and see. Give it a couple races before I buy it and stream it the next day. I hopped in there and the races were fine. The game seems to control okay. It seems like a ample kart racer, but looking at the battle pass and the microtransactions that it is absolutely plagued with was mind-blowing. It is too complex to even begin to dig into. There's 3 different currencies. It has all the fixings of a free-to-play mobile game, all the way from timers to microtransactions and battle passes, and they really shot themselves in the foot. And they've done, their damage control, apologizing and making changes in real time, but I think the damage may be done. And it's something that I was really
when you release it that way, you do a lot of damage that way, because you turn away your initial buyers.
Sure. Creator's intent.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go back and pick it up after you say you fixed it just to see that you haven't.
Yeah.
Do you think they had that apology pre-written, like before the game was released?
I don't think so.
We're sorry, we put microtransactions in.
And they just need to put like real gamers onto these. Like, I don't know. I don't know how these companies keep on fucking up so bad. You got to think that somewhere along the line they would be like, hey, let's ask a couple like just regular normal people how they'd feel if they bought this and started to play it.
Yeah, and you got to think like they must not have focus tested it or something for the microtransaction stuff at least. I mean, I don't know if the game's fun at the races themselves, but there's the internet now. You can't just release a full price game like this and expect nothing to come of it, right? Like, obviously,
completely.
if you had to cut out those microtransactions and just pushed it out, I bet you would have made so much more money than having all these in and people seeing the reviews and they're like, oh, I'm not buying this because I don't want to spend an extra $100 on it once I buy it.
It seems like a game that easily could have pulled a 7 or an 8 in review scores, and instead it's pulling in 5s and 6s because of the way that it's just like designed from a menu and progression standpoint.
Yeah.
But, and I'm okay with microtransactions so long as if I buy the full game, I actually get something out of it. But to act, comparing it to Mario Kart for a second, you have all these characters that you get with Mario Kart the moment you unbox it. But in this, you get 1 or 2 characters, and then you have to buy your way in using these microtransactions to get these other characters.
Yeah.
And it's a huge loss. I mean, I love Chocobo as much as the next Final Fantasy nerd, but going in, I want to play as somebody else other than Chocobo. At least give me a handful of other people to play as.
Yeah, and even to that point, the main, like, okay, it's a Final Fantasy game where you can play as any character, right? Like, or any character from a series of games. Obviously, everyone is in there looking for Cloud Strife. Where's Cloud Strife? At the tail end of the battle pass. That's a nightmare to progress through. That's just
naturally
so wrong. Like, Cloud Strife should be the character that you get as like a free login bonus. Like, thanks for playing the game on week 1. Here's everyone's favorite character. The lobby should be full of Cloud Strifes.
Yeah. Did the real question is, did they have Chadley in there? If they have Chadley, I might have.
I don't think there's any Final Fantasy 15 representation, and I would have not even downloaded the demo if Chadley was included.
Isn't Chadley in 7 Remake as well? Right? He is from 7 Remake.
Oh, Chadley is 7 Remake. I don't know why I'm saying 15.
Chadley, yeah. Okay, I was about to say I don't remember this 15.
He's an addition to 7 Remake. He was not in Final Fantasy 7.
Hey man, my boy Chadley is.
Stop it.
I must be blanking because I can't remember who Chadley even is.
He's the little nightmare robot boy that works for Shinra who gives you the VR missions.
You go into the VR missions to like.
He pops up in like every city. Yeah. He's just a all around weirdo. All right, from one Final Fantasy nightmare into a bit of a Final Fantasy dream? Question mark?
Dream?
Final Fantasy Origin. Stranger Chaos.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Chaos. That's the meme.
Oh, God.
Listen, I'm going to be probably right in the back burner of this game quite a bit, but like from an outside perspective, this game seems to like be... Is it self-aware? Does it know that it's weird and a little corny?
Yeah, it's self-aware.
In its tone?
I would hope so.
It's very self-aware. And it becomes more apparent the more you play.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's not self-aware, somebody's just messed up somewhere. It is one of the most bizarre games I've ever played. I enjoyed it. So me and Freight actually played through it together.
It's about to be a fight.
It's one of the most bizarre games I've ever played. Well, I enjoyed
it. Freight's rolling up his sleeves right now. But no, I did enjoy it. It took me a while. I made fun of every single cutscene in that game because they are rough. But if you go at it with the attitude that they are self-aware of what they're doing, it makes it better. I was a little bit more apprehensive in the first maybe 5-6 hours of cutscenes. And mind you, they don't get better. They don't get better. They're just stupid. They're dumb. The dialogue in this game, oh my god. But I enjoyed it. I don't know. The gameplay was super fun. It was really fast paced. I will say, I know lots of people are like, we can't review games based on graphics, and I agree with that to an extent, but this is an ugly game. It is ugly. Like, but I don't care because I was enjoying it, right? But like I said, me and Freight played it together. It has really good progression per character. Like with your job classes and everything, you can pick any class that you want. Really, you just have to work up to it, and you can swap classes on the fly. And it's really fun to play co-op. It really takes the heat off of you. Like I would say it's pretty hard alone. But playing co-op, it really takes a lot off, and it's just a fun experience with friends. So,
Freight, is it like is it the same way that they do co-op in like Elden Ring and Dark Souls? Like you summon a friend, or is it match made, or?
No. So the co-op in this is actually a lot different than Elden Ring. So with Elden Ring, you have to summon in the other player, and it actually limits some of the content or the abilities that you have to play through the game. Whereas this, you actually form the party before you start the mission. And you actually, I don't know if Kaulin actually played any of it solo, but I did. And it actually, you don't get some of the features playing solo. So for example, the famous Phoenix Down is not available when you play solo. So if you die, you have to start over. And so it is beyond more difficult playing by yourself than it is playing a party of people. Almost to the point where it seems like they designed it that way to be more of a multiplayer experience than play by yourself.
Yeah, which outside of 14 isn't really available in the Final Fantasy universe all that often.
No.
That reminds me of my biggest gripe with this game. You play through maybe 20 hours of the campaign, and you're right near the end, right? You're like, oh my god, it's right there, I can feel it. And they force you to play it solo. They force you, you can play the entire game co-op, and then right at the end, they force you to play it solo, and I hate it. I hate it. Don't make me learn to depend on someone for the entire game and then play the last 30 minutes solo.
Without
now to interject for just a second. Now there is, without going into spoilers, there's a very important story reason as to why it is solo play at that point. But I do agree with his point that, you build up this dependency on your other player partner to get through all this content, and then all of a sudden that ally is ripped away from you. Like it makes it not what's the word, shell shock, whiplash. It is very strong feeling of it.
I was going to say that sort of reminds me, that was going to be my question without spoiling it. Does it make sense for like story beats as to why they're doing that? Because it's not unlike Final Fantasy 14, where that game is a MMO RPG, but every once in a while you have what they call like an instanced story mission, where it's just something that it's like, it's your character, you're the hero, you've got to go do the thing with the NPCs and the characters that aren't just other nameless warriors in the game. To do it, and I don't mind that in moderation, but I can see in a single player game, or I guess in like a non-MMO game, that you've really been relying on a friend for all that time. That would be a little questionable.
It definitely makes sense in the story. So there's that. I don't agree with it. I think you could just drop another player in there and be fine. But it is what it is. I will say though, I don't really know what audience to recommend this game to. I don't think that this will appeal to the Soulsborne audience, right? It's not a Soulsborne. The more I play it, it's not a Soulsborne.
Yeah, I think I've heard it compared to Nier more than Souls.
Yeah,
Neo.
and then there's Neo because they made the Neo game, so there's some DNA in there, and then Nier kind of as well.
Confused.
Well, I would agree. It has some Nier feelings to it, and just how it plays. It's a lot more hack and slash than like the anticipated movements and attacks of Elden Ring, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think of how to like.
I actually disagree with that, and only because I did play it solo. If you play it solo, you have to learn the patterns of the bosses and the enemies, or you will be crushed. You will absolutely be crushed.
The bosses for sure feel like Soulsborne bosses.
Yes.
But the game as a whole, I think, is just different enough to not broadly appeal to Soulsborne.
I do agree with that. I don't think every Soulsborne person is going to step into this and appreciate it for what it is. Yeah, because it does have its own differences.
Yeah,
I get that.
It's a good game. I liked it. I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad I played it.
You brought up, what target demographic? Who is this for? And like FrateTrain and I bonded immediately when we met over like a love for Final Fantasy, and I want to say that it's that, but also just watching gameplay and kind of being on the sideline here, it looks like as much as it ties in a bit to Final Fantasy 1, it also is doing some fan service through the entire series. Were you satisfied with what they implemented in the ways that it draws from other Final Fantasy games?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, speaking as a Final Fantasy nerd, I loved it. I loved all the references. I loved all the throwbacks. So the idea is that the areas are they call them dimensions, but the dimension number corresponds with the Final Fantasy game that they pulled from.
Yeah.
So, for example, like one of the ones that Kaulin was looking for was Dimension 7, so Final Fantasy 7. And I mean, you walk through and it looks like you're walking through that game or a portion of that game.
Yeah.
So there's all these throwbacks, not to mention, all the monsters and stuff are found throughout the assortment of Final Fantasy games. But I think anybody who has any kind of love for the original Final Fantasy, so Final Fantasy 1, this is a must play. It is a must play. Even if you put it on the lowest difficulty, play it. You will appreciate it in the story.
Feel targeted.
It does have a good story.
Lowest difficulty and eventually playing it is right where I qualify.
It is easy on the lowest difficulty too.
It's very easy.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Nice. The other thing that I saw that was viral, just kind of in closing on that game, that I really appreciated was there is God, I hope this isn't a big spoiler, but I feel like it kind of made its way through the video game Twitter over the last couple of weeks so much that I think it's just kind of out there now. But there is one specific scene that takes like a very overused video game trope and turns it on its head that I just really appreciated. And I'll try to explain it the best I can, having not played it. But it's a very standard action RPG thing that always happens. There's this gigantic boss that starts to monologue, and it's, I think it's Jack is like the main character, and the boss starts going on and he's like, my name is, and all of a sudden Jack goes, I don't give a fuck what your name is, and just dives in and the battle starts.
God.
I was blown away. I was like, okay,
hysterical.
This game gets it.
Yeah. And I think that was the moment that I realized that it was self-aware.
Yeah. Yep.
It was funny. I mean, I had to admit, as much as I made fun of the cutscenes, I was also laughing at them because they were entertaining, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of kept me involved, but it's good. I liked it. I enjoyed it that I played it.
Easy transition from that. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you guys need to get out of the way on that?
Go play it.
Covered it. Nice. All right. From one Final Fantasy to another Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster dropped. And I've played Final Fantasy VI before, not all the way through. And I picked this up, and admittedly, I only put in a couple hours into it just to kind of test the waters and see how it stacked up. I'm not a purist. I'm not over here like I need the old pixel models. They're better. I like a nice little upgrade, and I've found myself really enjoying this. It's got all the fixings of like I guess like a modern 2D Final Fantasy game now. You've got a little mini map programmed in there. You have these orchestral remakes of the music that is absolutely the highlight to me so far. FrateTrain, I know you haven't played, or I'm not positive that you haven't played 6 Pixel Remaster.
I have not played 6.
You've been checking out the Pixel remasters of the other Final Fantasy games, correct?
Yes, I am slowly working my way through literally 1 through 15. But I've been playing the Pixel remasters. I've almost finished 3.
Nice.
We're getting close.
Listen, we're gonna do your plugs at the end of the show and whatnot, but if anyone's listening to this right now and they're like, oh, he's playing through all the Final Fantasies, just tell them what your Twitch is real quick.
So you can find me on Twitch on FrateTrain 16, FRATE Train 16. So working through 1 through 15 every Friday night, 7 Central.
Look at this guy's ready for a pitch. Like it. I like it.
Final
He's done
Fantasy
better than
Friday.
Kaulin and I every time we've had to pitch our.
I know we're so bad at pitching our stuff.
Can you do a pre-recorded pitch for us that we just play at the end of our show?
Yeah.
Send me your times and I'll do it.
All right, perfect.
You know what I was thinking? We need to get like the Master Chief voice, like the voice actor, and have him just create an outro for us, or just play at the end every time. Get like a cameo or whatever.
On the topic of streams, and I can transition this one too, because I don't have that much more to say about Final Fantasy VI. It's phenomenal. The Pixel remaster is worth picking up if you're going to play Final Fantasy VI. But on that same idea, I used to stream. We've completed it. I played as I started streaming. I brought on a couple of my friends IRL onto my streams on Saturday nights, and we played through all the Kingdom Hearts games sequentially, and we call it Saturday Night Kingdom Hearts with the fellers, like the way Goofy would say it. And that still goes on. I still stream with them on Saturday nights, and it's an absolute blast. And we still check out Kingdom Hearts when we can and pepper it in, obviously waiting on the next one, etc., etc. But at that time, we were like, okay, we have this thing that we do on Saturday nights. How cool would it be if we could get Haley Joel Osment to do a cameo, one of the cameos for us, and do like an intro in the Sora voice for like, welcome to Saturday Night Kingdom Hearts with the fellers. Kingdom Hearts is light. Something along those lines. That would be great. Didn't quite work out. But transition-wise, we can talk about bets, because I kind of lost one. But I also was like super close, and I got some partial credit. Yeah. So to recap on bets, and we'll get into probably bring this up again when we get to like the PlayStation news and stuff like that, because the state of play kind of happened outside of that time, and then there was another one that didn't quite qualify. The good news is that Kaulin held up his end of the deal, and he streamed Kingdom Hearts 1.
I'm a man of my word, man.
I'm still listen. I got another month until I got to pay my dues. I will stream some Resident Evil, probably 8. Look at that. Got the story so far. He's got it all. So you only have like 10 more games to play.
Listen, and I'm sure there'll be about 40 more games by the time I finish all of them.
People keep on saying.
I speak up as a witness as well. I was there. He did in fact stream it.
I've got a bet going
jamming
on
out to some Simple and Clean.
Oh, so good. Sorry, I got chills real quick. Let me shake that. Let me shake that out and stop thinking about Kingdom Hearts music. I'm ready for this conversation. I know that you probably didn't sell you right off the bat. Kingdom Hearts 1 doesn't hold up as well as some of the other games in the series, but I thought it was important. As much as I'd like you to go jump into Kingdom Hearts 2, the story is even more batshit insane and tough to follow. I figured just starting you on Kingdom Hearts 1 was the way to go. What'd you think?
So I didn't make it very far because there were puzzles at the start that stumped me, I guess. They're not even puzzles. It's like a scavenger hunt on the island, and it took me far too long to find all those pieces.
But it's not an engaging opening.
I just made it to Traverse Town. Is it Traverse or Traverse?
Traverse Town.
Traverse.
I think it's Traverse Town. Even though you wouldn't say that in like a sentence without being called weird.
Yeah.
I have to traverse the road. Yeah.
I made it to Traverse Town, and we saved it and ended the stream there, and I haven't played it since. But I will say, The music's really good. I really like Kingdom Hearts music, even though I haven't played the games. Just from watching you stream with the fellers over the years, it has been years, truly.
Crazy.
Wow.
It has been. Though.
Yeah. But yeah, I just always enjoyed the Kingdom Hearts music. And funny enough, yesterday, I just had my phone on shuffle and freaking Simple and Clean played. And I was not expecting it at all. I was like, wait, I know this song. And yeah, Simple and Clean was playing. So I enjoyed it. Will I go back? I don't know. Maybe we'll make another bet that'll make me go back.
I like it.
But it's really good. I enjoyed it. I
the
will
next
say
bet's gonna be high stakes. It's gonna be. It'll have to be so beat the game, and I'll have to put up or shut up.
Complete it on critical mode.
I wouldn't do that to him. Although you probably would be able to do it. And if you got that far, he'd be like, I want to platinum it anyway. So,
well, I looked up the platinum guide, and it's like 100-hour plus platinum. And I don't normally go for those. Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot.
I tried tempting him on stream too, and he wouldn't do it.
No,
I wouldn't even do it for 10 gifted subs. I don't remember. I said no.
I'm sure I offered up to 25, and you said no. So.
Yeah, it was something like that. I was like, nah. I'm sorry, I just can't.
That's a deal. All right. I have no smooth transition for this next part, but I've been playing some Tunic. Did either of you guys check this out? Am I on my own on this one?
I have.
Nice. Okay.
A little bit. Not a lot. I've played a little bit.
No, same here. A recurring theme on this channel. I either go like balls in on a game and I sink 90 hours into Elden Ring, or I play Tunic for 25 minutes and I go, this is hard. Talk about it.
I'm done.
Talk about it for 4 minutes on a podcast. Tunic, isometric 3D Zelda-like, Souls-like, really feels like an amalgamation of a bunch of different genres of game all rolled into one, but does some really unique things, not only with art style, but in presentation as a whole. It's got this like interesting gimmick where the game doesn't even have like an instruction manual or like a traditional tutorial. You have to like find these pages of the instruction manual that are written in a different language that give you like visual hints. It's a game that is tough to explain, but would make sense if you played it. The good news is it's on Game Pass, and you can do so for the low price of $14.99 a month. Game Pass Ultimate on PC. More on Game Pass.
I gotta say, Jake, that was the weirdest thing for me. Picking up the instruction manual. I legit went into my options like, is my set on something other than English right now?
It's insane.
That's cool.
Insane. And from what I gathered, I'm pretty sure that there's like ways of figuring out and translating what's in that manual to have it make sense, because I was like pretty sure it did an interesting thing that I not a spoiler, this happens in the first like hour of the game. Like you have a map obviously, and it'll show you like general directions, and you'll be able to place like, okay, this is a landmark and that must be this on the map, things along those lines. But it does this thing where from the get-go I had the ability to run. And I didn't know that until I got the instruction manual, and it showed me how to do it. So via trial and error, you could potentially figure out this thing, but also by collecting these pages and progressing through the game, it will naturally show you how to use the moves that are at your disposal to continue on and to like adapt into your actual like gameplay. It's very, very cool and extremely unique. Freight, did you enjoy your time with it?
I did. I'll be honest, I kind of hit the same point you did. I got about an hour in. I was like, this is hard. And I shut it off.
Yeah, it's
and I haven't gone back to it since.
Yeah, it's got like the Souls-like sort of like, if you die, you go back to the last point that you were at, and you have to go back and pick up the things that you dropped, whether those are souls or money or whatever incoherent gibberish Tunic has decided to call them. And it's definitely got that same like learning curve. You got to block, you got to use your iframes when you dodge, you need to run away from some fights and avoid enemies. But a game that looks cute but plays cruel, I would say. But overall, a pretty enjoyable time, all said and done. Let's dig into something that we talked about on the last episode. We record these somewhere around the beginning of the month, usually within the first week. Right now it's April 6th. We're recording what we played in March and what we're looking forward to in April. At the tail end of last month, Octopath, not Octopath, I do this every time. It's triangle
did it
strategy, and
again.
it's not
You
even.
did it
It doesn't even
again.
have project. Doesn't
You
even
were
have
reading
project in
the
it.
title and you still said Octopath.
Listen, it's the same.
It is the
Okay,
same
wait.
font.
Let me ask that.
And the same
Are those the
art.
same? Are they the same universe?
I don't know if it's the same universe. I don't think it's the same
There's
universe,
not like
but it's the same
you can't
studio.
like play like the characters from Octopath are not like
No.
playable in Triangle, right? Okay.
No.
Not crazy.
There's a fan theory there somewhere, but
yeah,
sure,
I mean, it could definitely be like different continents or something. But from where I've made it so far in Triangle, there's not well, there's magic attacks, but I don't see any like mystical animals or anything,
Right.
like there were in Octopath. I will preface this. I've only played like one battle in Octopath. Or I did it. I'm not doing it now, Jake. I've only played
Welcome
one
to
battle.
Games List.
God. I've only done one battle in Triangle Strategy because and I'm about 4 to 5 hours in. Because it is the tutorial battle that I've played, and then it is 3 to 4 hours of dialogue of these little sprites and their politics. And I want to say I like it.
Yeah.
I want to say I like it, but the hook of the game is the gameplay, is the battles. Yeah. And I have not been hooked on the game because I haven't had another battle, right? So I've been playing like, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, and then just listening to dialogue the whole time. And I like the dialogue. They do pretty good with it. I've broken this game down multiple times as it's 3 parts. It's the looks of Octopath. It is the gameplay of Fire Emblem or like Final Fantasy Tactics, and it is the politics of Game of Thrones, just not as in depth and not as many tits.
Less incest.
Yeah, a lot less of that stuff. At least from where I've gotten. But it's good. I really like it, and I'm glad I have it. But it doesn't have its hooks in me yet because I can't fight a battle.
Yeah.
I fought a longer battle in the demo than I have in the actual game so far. So that's why it's been a month and I've only played a couple hours. It's just because it's hard to hook me.
A fair criticism of the game, to be honest, like where it's got the structure that you see like a game that I could enjoy, but it's tough to say. I wanted to just mutter out the phrase like it doesn't respect your time, but there are some people that would play this and go bonkers for the lore and just want to learn these houses and want to know what's happening next, and that's just not necessarily everybody. It just seems like one of those games where if it's for you, it's just the best, and if it's not for you, probably steer away.
It's I like the lore so far. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not insulted by the way it's playing. But like I said, there's just so many games out right now that I'm trying to balance my time with. Listening to all these conversations just isn't my main priority right now.
I get it.
So if you're looking to buy this game, I would be wary. I would know that. As of right now, I would say don't buy this game. Go buy Fire Emblem Three Houses. If you're looking for this kind of gameplay.
So let me ask you a question real fast. So I mean, is this the kind of game where if you're gonna play it, you need to pick it up and play it and not play anything else? It seems like because there's so much dialogue and there's so much of this backstory going on, that you can't really put it down.
I would say that's probably pretty fair, because there's lots of names and lots of houses and lots of cousins of kings, of dukes and stuff, and you're trying to figure out all these political hierarchies and stuff, and it's hard to keep track once you go away and then come back. So I think that's fair, but at the same time, if you're not interested in any of the dialogue, you can just skip it all. You can skip through the dialogue, get right to the gameplay.
It just feels like one of those games where, like, if you're into this type of thing, if you're a single game type of person where you pick something up and you just play that thing, it's probably like a gold mine for one of those people that loves Fire Emblem and they just play Fire Emblem start to finish and dump in 150 hours. They play through all 3 stories, they dig the lore, they like seeing the story from all these different types of perspectives and things like that. But for somebody like me, or probably most of us that like to play 3 different games at a time and 10 different games in a month, probably a little tough to command that much time.
And I would say, like, so far I think Fire Emblem Fire Emblem's layout and gameplay and the way it handles its story, I prefer that over Triangle Strategy. But just because I am a fan of these games, I'm going to keep playing Triangle Strategy. It might be November before I finish it. But I'm going to keep at it just slowly. So,
yep, makes sense. I'm going to rapid fire a couple things that I played real quick. Nothing that really requires too much time to dwell on, I don't think. But we talked about it last month as far as the rundown of what it actually includes, but checking out the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course pack was really fun. Obviously makes for a great stream with a community. The 8 levels are really sound. I had a blast. And it's definitely... You already know if you want this or not. Do you play Mario Kart? Would you enjoy playing more Mario Kart on varied levels? If yes, spend $25 or subscribe to Nintendo Switch Premium. I don't think there's really much more to say about that one. In the same way that Cyberpunk's playable now. I went back. We talked about this. This was part of the news last month, is that they put out that patch 1.5. Having never played Cyberpunk before and then hopping into it, I was able to establish two things. One, Cyberpunk has too much going on to be a game for me, but similar to the way that we were talking about Triangle Strategy. If this is the type of game that you like, go on out and play it. I experienced 0 bugs. I found an enticing world, a story that was incredibly immersive for opening hours, and it just seems completely sound. It feels like it is now the game that they meant to ship. So anybody that has been putting off Cyberpunk, or they said, oh, Cyberpunk would be such a game for me, I like those expansive RPGs, I like that sort of setting, and they were put off by obviously the issues at launch, grab it on sale, give it a go. I honestly, I think the meme of making fun of Cyberpunk is probably rounding the corner now, and I think it's coming halfway decent.
My wallet's hating you right now.
I will say I played Cyberpunk to completion and got the platinum like 2 weeks after it released. So I dealt with all those bugs, and I still adored that game. I couldn't defend it because of the bugs, but it's a great game, and you should play it.
Now's the time. Run, don't walk. Cyberpunk 2077.
I mean, it's been on sale for like $10 multiple times, so it's a good $10 to spend now.
For sure. We're not exactly covering it for news, but probably worth just like bringing up right now that cryptic tease for a new Witcher game from CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very, very early thing. It's kind of like just one of the things of like, hey, we're working on this, leave us alone. The most interesting thing about it is it's being built on Unreal Engine 5, which, you know, from around the game development industry is the best engine to use right now, right?
Available now.
And they had issues. It is available now. They had issues with the Red Engine 4, I believe it was called, for Cyberpunk. So I think it's good that they're just going to a tool set that is widely used, so there are answers to each question that the developer might have.
Right.
And like they're not the ones having to deal with the engine. They're just using the tools. They don't have to worry about upkeeping the engine as well. So I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, it's a little bit like I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but like a dude punched you in the face last year and now he's at the same party as you and he's got mutual friends and everyone thinks you should be chummy with him. And it's like, well, dude, we kind of got some history here. You know, we released Cyberpunk 2077 on me last year and it was a fucking hot mess. Now I'm supposed to just forget everything that happened and be excited for whatever's next? I think not.
Yeah.
So they got some damage control. They need to put out a absolute.
They've got a lot to prove right now.
They do.
For sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of terrible transitions, I've been playing Boomerang Fu.
Hey!
This is a game from a couple years ago that is available on Switch. It's local multiplayer only. I played it with some of my homies on stream that we did like an in-studio stream for. And this game is such dumb fun. It plays
so
like
good.
A Fusion Frenzy mini game. It's a bit of a one-trick pony. It's pretty much just like you hop into a level and everyone has a boomerang and whoever kills all the other players the best wins. And I don't know. It's another one that's like we could sit here and probably talk about it for 40 minutes because it does everything that it does so incredibly well. But if you're looking for something, if you have a Switch and 2 pairs of Joy-Con for 4 people, and 4 people that like playing things like Mario Party or Smash Brothers or Mario Kart, if you're looking for something to play in the living room and have a drink or two and then just mess around on a new video game with, spend $15 on Boomerang Fu, and don't even thank me. Thank Kaulin. He recommended it to me.
It's also it's $3 on the eShop right now.
What the fuck? Spent $15 on it 3 days ago.
I'm pretty sure it's $3 right now because I actually played it the same night that you did. I played it with my girlfriend, my roommate, and his girlfriend. And the next day, my girlfriend was like, "I think I'm gonna buy Boomerang Fu," and she's like, "It's only $3." So it's really good. It's a
you
fun
need to
game.
go get it for 15.
Absolutely.
I would still even recommend it.
Yeah, it's a steal, and it's like if you're just a dorm room of guys just hanging out, this is one heck of a game. It's really fun.
Not so bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Great game.
Listen, I have to come clean. I'm playing a little Fortnite.
Is that the guy from Fortnite?
Oh yeah. Listen,
they made a movie about the bat guy from Fortnite.
Oh my god, stuff. All right. So listen, Fortnite. I've played Fortnite over the years, for some hours, and always I get the popularity. It's not exactly my cup of tea. The building thing has always been a stopper for me. They had a season changeover, and during that time, they had a week where they took building out of the game, and you could just shoot people in a battle royale. And let me tell you, hopping in with my friends and just shooting people, it's a fun time.
Seems so much better.
It is 1,000 times better. It's infinitely better, and it was so popular that it's here to stay. So now there's Fortnite Zero build mode, and I honestly don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm embarrassed.
Okay, sounds good. I'll try it out. We'll play it one night.
All right. Master of Transitions, Jake Twitchin, is here to put FrateTrain on the spot.
I'm
Weird
impressed
West.
by your segues, man. Truly.
Yeah.
Just throw me in the hot seat just like that with
Today's
no
wild.
warning.
Listen, I need you to take this Fortnite heat off of me. All right, do your best to tell me what Weird West is, because it kind of came out of nowhere. It came out on the 1st or the 31st of March, so it's only been out for a little less than a week now.
Yeah, it's been out for about a week. So picture the old school top-down view, dual stick control. So the left stick moves, right stick aims. And fit that in a Wild West setting.
A weird
with
setting.
Yeah, but with the supernatural. So werewolf, ghosts, bugs that infect people and turn them into weird monsters, and cults.
Cool.
And pigmen?
And that's pretty much what and pigmen. And that's pretty much what Weird West is. It is it's an action RPG that behaves like a CRPG. Very, very action heavy. The dialogue's great, but there is no voice acting other than the narrator, which does not tell a whole lot. A lot of it is going to be, the dialogue that you'll have to read yourself or read aloud. And then there's the notes and things that you'll find along the way that help to build this world. But it's very immersive. The story so far is fantastic. It's played over 5 different characters. And each one has their own story to tell, so to speak. I've watched some of other people playing it as well. And each character has like their own unique feel to them because they get their own special abilities and stuff. So like this is the Pigman. This is the second character.
I like the Pigman.
But each one's got their own. Oh, it's great. I love the idea of it. But so it's procedurally generated, right? So each playthrough is going to be different. So where a mission may take place on this location in one playthrough, it may not take place in that same location in another playthrough. And then it's also got this bounty system. So as you play, you can do these bounties where you go and you catch the most wanted people in the Wild West. And and if you can either kill them or capture them. And it's possible that if you capture them or if you kill them, maybe their family will hate you, and it causes what's called a vendetta. And so they have this vendetta system to where their family or that character will escape from jail and hunt you down to kill you. Weird. And so you can have random events happen as you're traveling throughout the West.
So pretty complicated game, a lot of systems at work. Definitely seems like something you can get lost in. And then the fact that it's procedurally generated and that and there's that much going on leads me to believe there's probably a decent amount of replayability if it's your thing.
And and it can be unforgiving as well. I'm not even on the hardest difficulty, and it can be difficult. And I've heard talks of them doing another difficulty level beyond that.
They want you to keep coming back.
It's going to sound like I have a lot to say about a game that I've never played, but I have reasoning for it, okay? So this game is made by the co-creator of Dishonored, right? He was like the director on Dishonored. And then he left Arcane and created Wolf Eye Studios, who developed this game. So it has a lot of the immersive sim DNA, as FrateTrain was saying, it's immersive. So it has a lot of the immersive sim DNA built into it of there's a conveniently placed barrel. What if I push it off the ledge on top of all these enemies? So it has a lot of that stuff. I will say, I don't know if I'm going to play this, even though I'm like the biggest Dishonored fan ever. My dog is named after Corvo. I don't know if I'll be playing this game personally, just because I'm not a huge twin stick fan. I'm not a huge twin stick or like procedural fan for the most part, but it does look really fun. I've enjoyed watching FrateTrain stream it. But yeah, if you like immersive sims and you like twin sticks, I say give it a go. That's what I can see. And the setting's super cool. I wish it was just like Dishonored, but in the Weird West,
Yeah.
But that's asking a little much.
Also on Game Pass.
Oh, the big sell. That is actually really cool.
That's right. That's a good sell.
I got a transition lined up, going from things that Kaulin likes to things that Kaulin likes. The Last of Us Part 2.
Yes. Oh, boy. Where do I begin? All right. So, The Last of Us Part 2 released in 2020, right? In like the summer of 2020. And around that time, I was playing Ghost of Tsushima. I wasn't worried about The Last of Us, even though I bought it day one. For some reason, I held on to The Last of Us 2 until about a week ago. 2 weeks ago now. And I played that game. My God. If it can be, it might be my game of the year this year. I adored the revenge story and the redemption, part of a redemption, not quite. The story was just top notch. I can't even see where I would want to improve it, right? Lots of people have issues with it. Maybe some bald-headed man on this podcast might have issues with it. But I love it. I adored the story. It has a wonderful kickstart to the story that gives you a real drive to progress into it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I don't really know how to talk about it too much without spoiling it. Even though it's a game old, I don't want
that
to.
Is very difficult to. It is so story driven that without digging into the story, it is almost 100% your feelings on the story are going to be indicative of how you feel about the game as a whole, because it relies so heavily on that narrative.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it's a game that it's hard to say that you had fun playing it, right?
Yeah.
As much as I liked the combat and everything, I can't say that just sitting down and playing it was fun. But I was hooked. I was into it. I was immersed. I wanted to see the next cutscene. I wanted to kill the next clicker, right? But it's hard to say that it was a fun game. If you haven't played it, I think you owe it to yourself to play it. Naturally, if you haven't played the first one, play the first one first. But I do like this one better than the first one. I think this one's better. And
I think you honestly have to have played the first one, though.
I think you do need to play the first one, just because the kickstart at the very beginning won't have the same impact if you don't know the characters from the first one. And I've sat and I've thought, why do I like this one more than the first one? Whenever most people, I think there's probably a 50-50% cut of people who like the first one more than the second one. But I think the reason I'm not a huge fan, well, that sounds wrong saying I'm not a huge fan. I think the reason I like this one better is because I was just younger when I played the first one. I was younger when I experienced those stories. I don't think I was at the age where I could completely grasp what it was like to bond with those characters and to feel the emotions they were feeling, right? I mean, I was 12, 13 when the first game came
Jesus.
out. It came out in what, 2013?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, so I was 13 then, right? I'm now 22 and I can connect with the characters. I'm more emotionally matured, right? And I really think it comes down to just being at a different place in my life when I experienced those games that made me like the second one more. I will say I understand why people don't like the second one. It has its problems.
Yeah.
I understand why people don't like the way the story went. Personally, I enjoyed it. It was a very enthralling game that really just I sat down and played it nonstop for a week, and then now I have the platinum for it. So here we are. What a
Yeah.
game! I love it.
I had in my head that I was gonna like go hard at you, and the fact that I can't take knocks at the story without just like ruining anybody's experience that's listening to this that hasn't played it makes me need to really like bite my tongue. And I think that something that either you or Freight said at the beginning of this conversation about playing this without playing the first one is, I think, impossible. And I think that there's something to be said about like the title of the game, having it could have been called The Last of Us 2, or it could have been called The Last of Us, subtitle blah blah blah, but instead it's called The Last of Us Part 2, and they've credited it as a second half of a full story. But that becomes a tough sell too. So in some ways yes, in some ways it's, I think, to its credit, in some ways not at all.
Yeah,
it's a tough one to talk about for sure.
I think we're giving a lot of grace here, not spoiling it, since it has been like 2 years since it's come out.
For sure.
I think part 2 is justifiable. I think The Last of Us as a whole is Ellie's story, even though you play as Joel in the first one. Truthfully, it's Ellie and Joel's story, right?
Kind of.
But it is just a standout game. I played it right after I hopped off of Elden Ring, and I was like, what am I gonna do after Elden Ring? How am I gonna get involved in another game? I played
Kirby, man. You went to Last of Us
I know, right?
Jesus Christ, is everything all right?
You don't see me when the camera's off, but it just hooked me, and I didn't think anything could beat Elden Ring. But looking back, I think I enjoyed The Last of Us Part 2 more than I enjoyed Elden Ring. So.
Yeah, I get it, and like, I don't want to even on its worst day, I could never rate this game lower than an 8, and that's really, like, I think I'm harsh on it, because even if there was never a Last of Us Part 2, if Last of Us 1 ended the franchise entirely, which in the gaming world doesn't happen enough. Like, I think of like Ueda is probably the only one who's just down to make a fucking story and just have it be a standalone story. Like, you get Shadow of the Colossus, and that's all you get, motherfucker. Like, you don't get to go to a different world with a bunch more Colossi. It's the game. The game's over. Wait for my next thing. It reminds me of like, directors have that sort of same deal, like even in the world of franchises and things like that. Like, there's plenty of standalone Spielberg movies that you watch because Spielberg directed it, not because it's a sequel to Jaws, things along those lines. But all in all, it's still a good video game worth forming your own opinions on. I won't subject everybody to the specific reasons why
maybe one day
I despise this game that I think is an 8. Like, I love a lot of 7s,
You know what? I'm just really not happy with the way they took Kirby in the Forgotten Land. I think it's a wonderful game, but I hate it.
Kirby is a gem.
I hate Kirby. Mouthful Mode? What the heck is that, man?
All right, let's talk about a game that we agree on. Or I don't know, Freight and I agree on. And that's Vampire Survivors.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Okay, I think it's worth saying that this art that I'm showing, if you're watching the video version of this, we've got a little thumbnail area where we play videos, and sometimes we click over to that. And it's going to be important for us to start this conversation and throughout it go from this key art that they supply as the art for it, and then show what the game itself is as well as we speak about it, because this game is an enigma in the video game world. There's nothing like it, I feel like, that's doing it. It almost reminds me of like a early, like, addictive iOS mobile game, a one-time purchase. There's no in-app purchases or anything like that, and it is just this little package of gaming bliss that you can put in 10 minutes, 30 minutes into, or hours and hours into. So Vampire Survivors, without further ado, Freight, how many hours do you think you put into this game that, for the record, costs $2.99? That's not $300, that's $2.99.
I can tell you right now, I have put in 23 hours.
Nice. That's a bang for your buck.
So let me tell you. So the day I bought it, I called in sick to work. I was taking a day off work. I got on Twitch and I saw one of my streamers that I watch. Like, this game he's playing, this looks kind of fun. I looked it up on Steam. This is $3. Hell, that's a bargain. I went ahead and bought it. I spent entire day off, 10 hours playing this game, and I had played it. I picked it up and played it every single time they put out a patch, which, mind you, they put out a patch like every week and a half to 2 weeks.
That's pretty impressive. I didn't know they were supporting it like that.
And they have a roadmap too, and they're continuing to drop new content. It is so simple at its core. Yeah. I mean, the whole idea is survive for 30 minutes. Spoiler alert. That's it. That's all. There's nothing else to this game other than survive. But yeah, it's so much fun. And it's so rewarding to try all the different ways you can build your weapon setup.
Yeah.
And to try to get to that 30-minute mark to say, oh, I did it.
It's got these roguelike elements that keep you coming back for more. It's got this addictive way of, like, if you don't hit the 30 minutes, you want to hit the 30 minutes. If you hit the 30 minutes, you want to do it again. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It always feels like there's just enough to grab onto. Like, I think that everybody with different games has this feeling of, like, all right, maybe just one more run. Like, let's just go, we'll do just one more. And then it's like 3 a.m, and you're like, fuck, it was like 7 more. It is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's a 2D roguelike. It could not be more simple. We say Game Pass all the time. If you are hearing this, if you saw the gameplay, if you heard us talk about it and you think maybe it's for you, support this type of video game. Go spend the $3. You spent more on a sandwich yesterday for lunch. It's so cool.
I gotta say, I'm glad y'all are enjoying this game. It does not look like something that interests me in the slightest. Not even a single bit.
I get it.
As soon as we get off this podcast, I will gift you the $3 game for you to sit down and play it for 1 hour.
Yes. I was out and I had it
1 hour playing it.
I'm love
scared.
To see
what
the
if I get
statistics.
addicted?
I would love to see the statistics of how many times this game has been gifted, because it does have this price point of like $3 is such a small amount of cash to put in on something that you're passionate about. And it just feels like I'd never gifted a game on Steam, and I'm ready to go gift. And I don't think I've ever received a gift on Steam.
The developers deserve it.
Yeah.
To make a game like this, and the fact that they're continuing to update it. Like, the day I bought it for the $3 that I bought it for, and how minimalistic it was, I was happy with how much gaming I got out of it for $3, and happy that I could still go back to it and still enjoy it.
Yep.
But they're still continuing to patch it every few weeks, add new achievements, new weapons, new areas, which I'll tell you, the new area they just put out is hard as fuck. So hard.
They keep you coming back for more.
But yeah, for the fact that I only paid $3 for it, I would rather play this than some games that I spent $60 on.
For sure.
And that says a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
it really is awesome. It's such a it's such a cool little slice of video game that is inoffensively priced, and it offers so much and so little at the same time, but that's almost so the beauty of it. It is unlike anything that we've talked about on the show so far.
You know, and I think the best part of this is the developer's name is Poncle, Poncle.
It's a very strong name.
It's a lowercase p too, so get it right. Poncle.
Jeez, but still say it with respect because he deserves it. Speaking of games that require respect, my fucking transition.
Hey,
calling it. Let's do a series wrap on Elden Ring, man. We talked about it a little bit already. We talked about it at length. It's the longest segment that we've done on the show. Elden Ring is complete for Kaulin and I. We did a vast majority of that game together, which was really fun. Any closing thoughts?
And then you ran off and left me.
You slowed down, bro.
Bro,
get on my level. I'm gaming over here.
Golly.
What I want to say about Elden Ring in closing versus what I said, I thought it was important for me to bring this up, especially on the heels of the conversation that we had last time, because at the end of the last podcast, we literally said, like, okay, let's end the podcast and go play Elden Ring, which we did. I mainlined that game. I spoke about earlier in this podcast about how towards the end I felt like burnt out from being in that world and things like that. And I will say that the amount of time that I spent in those early areas and in the opening 30 or 40 hours of that game were played much differently than my last 30 or 40 hours in that game. It does at the end, arguably, at least for me, it overstays its welcome just a little bit. Not to the point of I was ever like, okay, I'm going to fall off this. It's just that I kind of lost the dedication that I had to going and finding side things towards the end of it. I think, Freight, you can probably attest you're falling off of it a little bit. Playing it a little less than before.
I was just checking my hour count. I'm at 87 hours, and I think I'm getting close. But I'm at the point where I am saying, okay, where the hell is the end? I am ready for it to be done so I can scratch it off my list. Now, that's not to say I won't come back and play it again, because I absolutely will. I love these Soulsborne games, but I just so for it to be done.
It's a beefcake. It's a beefcake, which is there are some people again talking about those games where some people are just like, buy the one game and that's what I play for 9 months out of the year until the next game comes out. And they are eating right now. People are on their third, fourth playthrough, new game plus, doing different builds, ton to experiment with. The game has a massive amount of content to offer. For me, I treated the last 25% of that game as like a boss rush. I was like, okay, I'm fucking good to go. Nothing's stopping me. I'm gonna go crush this. I died a few times on a couple bosses, but for the most part, I was able to just beeline it right to the end. Got the worst ending in the game. Watched the other ones on the internet. I'm good. Kirby time.
That's funny. I think I had right around 80 hours in it when I finished it. And I've put more hours in just because I'm playing with friends off and on whenever I'll summon into their world and help them out a little bit. I did get the platinum for this game. And I think it overstayed its welcome by maybe 10 to 15 hours. I think they could have cut out at least one area just completely, and it would have been a perfectly sized game.
I think I disagree that they could have like cut it out. I feel like it's impressive that there is that much. I think just for me, I don't know. It's tough to say like shorten your game.
And I also did the same as you near the Limgrave. Man, I scoured that thing. And Lorenia, the lake or whatever, how you pronounce it, I scoured that thing. Kaulin a little less, the capital even more or less.
Suck.
And as the game went on, I felt less and less enticed and less motivated to search these extra dungeons, and I was just mainlining it, right? And I say mainlining it, but I did do the hardest boss in the game. That's an optional boss. That's an entirely separate area, like the size of the capital. It's huge. There's so many different open areas in this game that you can just completely miss.
That capital city is one of the most impressive environments that I've ever been in a video game. And completely overwhelming, and is basically what made me want to stop playing.
It's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming because you're like, oh my god, this is so huge. But then again, once you get down to it, it's very small. these Souls games do a really good job of making things seem huge and overwhelming, but in the end, it's like 4 hallways just with turns that disorient you.
Yeah.
But it was a great game. I mean, I would say it's the 10 out of 10 this year. There's not much complaints I have with it. And if my worst complaint is it was too long, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it was a phenomenal game, and I adored almost every second of it. So,
for sure, good stuff. In closing, for the things that we've been playing, we will just talk very briefly about Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye. This has been like the most constant game that we've talked about on the show so far in our 3 or 4 episodes. I think so, yeah. And we're in the middle of playing it. We're making good on it. We've got some little exclusive GameList streams going on Kaulin's channel on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/
I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was a layup. It's Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Kaulin, KAULINE_.
Nailed it. First try.
Kaulin_.
Catch him at random times during the week.
Yes. It's extremely random. I don't have a schedule. I'm in pharmacy school. Very busy man.
It's tough. It's tough to maintain. But Kaulin and I are doing a pretty unique stream that has been such a blast to do. And we're going to talk about it at length. We're still making good on that promise. We're playing through it together. And then because we wanted to talk about Outer Wilds spoilers so much and dig into what that game is, we decided we would do Echoes of the Eye together and then record a bonus podcast. So the first spoiler cast that we'll ever have on the GameList channel, that'll pop up right in your same feed or on your same YouTube playlist, whatever you're finding us under. You can stay tuned to the end of the show to hear your options. You're going to have the opportunity to hear us ramble on for probably longer than we even talked about Elden Ring on the last episode about Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye, because I love it. I really, really love it. And it's been a blast to play the way that we're playing it. Kaulin's on the sticks, but we got 2 brains solving this mystery, this puzzle, essentially, that's all taking place.
And thank God for it, because my brain couldn't do it alone.
We're making it happen, though. It's been a really fun time. So all that's coming up, things to look forward to. But I think that wraps it up. Is anybody else playing anything that we didn't talk about that they want to bring up? I can't think of anything. I'm still playing hundreds of hours of Final Fantasy 14 every month. But
yeah, I'm playing lots of games on the side, but nothing worth mentioning right now.
No, I've been sitting here trying to think of something that I've been playing that's worth mentioning. I play a lot of indie games, but nothing to write home about at the moment.
Yeah,
love it. Puts us in good shape to jump into last month's news recap. Let's jump off. I guess we'll go somewhat sequentially. Big acquisition early last month. PlayStation acquires Haven Studios.
Yes, Haven.
Kaulin, what you got?
So you might say, what is Haven Studios? What games has Haven? That's a Haven. It's hard to say. It's like an alliteration. Yeah. What games has Haven Studios put out? None yet. So Haven Studios was founded by Jade Raymond. If you don't recognize the name, that's okay. She was actually the producer and like an executive producer on the earlier Assassin's Creed games. And she also worked on like Watch Dogs and stuff along like that. So Jade Raymond actually left Ubisoft, and then she was like the president or something along those lines for Stadia. So as we all know, Stadia was a failure. So she went and made her own studio, and yeah, it is. She went and made her own studio, and they had like an agreement with PlayStation. PlayStation was gonna help them out with their first game and everything like that. Well, out of nowhere, PlayStation just bought them. So they want Haven to work on like live service games or multiplayer games. That's what Haven was working on. And PlayStation is really like pushing for live service games in the future. It's not saying that they're getting rid of their first player experiences, because they know that's like everybody loves that, right? But they do want to expand their scope and get more multiplayer, because realistically, PlayStation's kind of been lacking on the multiplayer front for years now. I can't remember the last multiplayer first party game they put out. God, it was a while ago. But anyways, they're working on a AAA multiplayer experience. They're owned by Sony now. I have complete faith in Sony. I don't think that we've ever seen. I'm gonna sound like a fanboy here, but we've never seen a
show.
I know, right? We've never seen a studio acquisition go wrong with Sony. At least not yet, right? We've seen Visceral get, destroyed by EA and things like that. But so far, Sony's shown that they know what they're doing.
Solid track record.
Yeah. And I'm very excited to see what's to come. I don't know what to expect because they haven't delivered a game yet. But I can only imagine it's good based on Sony's previous purchases. They only buy studios that make good games.
It seems like they're assembling a strong team internally now, which is cool to see in this world of like acquisitions of like these gigantic names, to see them investing in something that's, for all intents and purposes, like a smaller startup at this point. But we're starting to see a trend with Sony of like putting faith into these smaller companies as well.
And like Housemarque.
Housemarque is exactly what came to mind with like Returnal. They came from humble beginnings, and now, I think the world is waiting on a new AAA game from them, essentially. So
absolutely,
it happened fast. So it'll be interesting to see what they have there. I'm excited to see what they announce.
So I do want to challenge that just for a moment, though. So with the previous acquisitions that PlayStation has done, the studios that they have acquired, haven't they put out games prior to them being acquired?
Yeah, I think for most part,
This is the only studio that they've bought that hasn't like just pumped something out yet, because this is a brand new studio. It's like a year old or something along those lines.
Yeah, so that right there is my concern. So what little I read on the acquisition, they were proclaiming that they were going to put out a AAA title just as their first game.
Yeah,
and that's a lot to be said.
They had PlayStation funding behind it, so because they were partnering with PlayStation, so that would have given them the money for the AAA title.
Do we know if they're working on new IP as their stuff, or could it be existing PlayStation IP? Because that would actually be interesting if they were working on something that's going to be adapted into like a first-party property.
Considering it was a partnership prior to them being acquired and they were already working on their first game, I imagine it is a new IP.
Yeah, I have a quote actually. It says our first new IP for PlayStation is on track to deliver a AAA multiplayer experience with a vision to build systemic and evolving world focused on freedom, thrill, and playfulness that will keep players entertained and engaged for years.
The big three.
So, new IP, thrill. Yes,
freedom,
thrill is one of the big three.
All my favorites. That's cool. I'm interested to see, what they put out, but cautiously apprehensive. It sounds like Jade Raymond is for some reason I know this name, yet it's tough to like attach work that she's done, but everyone holds her in a very, very high regard.
Yeah.
So
and
I think it'll be
I can't help but feel like PlayStation is like going to the supermarket and looking at the produce and just picking the best ones out of each little section. Because it just recently, Housemarque, Blue Point, Bungie. That's not to even mention Firesprite. Firesprite is like a support studio that's working on multiple projects right now. They're making moves. Yeah, I would possibly. They're making moves, and I'm very excited to see where it's going, because I love me some games, man.
Fucking gaming landscape is wild. We started a podcast at the right time, man. All right. There's a lot of Sony dominates. I criticize them for the way that they put out these PlayStation things and these blog posts and what's going to be a state of play and what's not, and the size of it, and what's going to be a showcase and the whole 9 yards. But as I put together these little slideshows and outline the podcast every month, God, Sony dominates these headlines. Even things like, we're going to talk about the Hogwarts state of play. That's a game that's not a first party Sony title yet. The only thumbnails I could find for it had fucking X's and O's all over it in blue. And they know what they're doing as far as making sure that we say the word PlayStation a lot. That's for sure.
A lot. It's like a mist. They mist us with news all the time. You like that?
Keep the Sony mist away.
The Sony mist.
We're gonna spice it up a little bit, and with your Sony mist, you're gonna get some Nintendo sprinkles. But unfortunately, it's just not the ideal news. Sequel to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild has been delayed again. I think it's Eiji Onuma. I'm not positive how to say his first name. But this guy is, the king of Zelda, essentially. He's been working on all these things. God, I can't help but feel bad, and it's tough because Nintendo is so tight-lipped, I think, more than any other company. You hear about workplace environments basically everywhere except for Nintendo more often than not, and it's tough to tell if something is in development hell because they would never admit to that being the case, and you hear very, very few things. But it seems like everything, the way that they're framing it, is that the scope of the game has grown exponentially in what originally was supposed to be like, Breath of the Wild's. If the Breath of the Wild is, the Ocarina of Time, then we were expected to get the Majora's Mask to Breath of the Wild's, Ocarina. And it's starting to look like the scope has grown yet again because this thing has been pushed now to 2023, spring of 2023. Hopefully, at this point, Jesus Christ, they got to get this thing out. But it begs quite a few questions. What's going on behind the scenes? What's the scope of this game? Why can't they give us a fucking title? Is anybody sick of saying the sequel to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild?
Oh, I know. That's what I was thinking.
It's all very bizarre. But you can't help but feel bad for Onuma because I feel like, potentially he thought he was going to get a quick one out. Slide out a little Zelda sequel, and it's turned into nothing short of a full development cycle for this game, which is not unheard of for Zelda games, that's for sure. But at the same time, Onuma, let me show you what he typically looks like when he has to break bad news.
His haircut looks so good.
So this is what you've seen for the last 20 years that this man's been on the limelight. If you're listening to this and not watching, I urge you to look up some pictures of him before this and then look at that new Zelda delay announcement video because the glow up is insane.
It looks so good.
My guess is just based on visual appearance, everything's going fine with development. The game is just getting better and better. This does not look like a man who's having a hard time at work. This looks like a man in the midst of a glow up who's having the time of his life developing a 10 out of 10. The sequel to The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. But it's interesting to see still, nonetheless, and there's still so many questions. The delay video included like an extra 4 seconds of footage that people hadn't seen before on the sequel, and obviously Zelda internet has gone wild with it. With this 4 seconds, you can expect a 4-hour YouTube video.
Pick it apart.
Just going, why is the sword damaged? What's going on? Why is Link's hair like
millisecond by millisecond?
And I know exactly when this game is going to release.
When?
It's going to release a week after Horizon Call of the Wild, the Horizon VR game.
To be overshadowed.
A week after.
Once again, they're waiting on that announcement of PSVR 2 so they can rain on their parade.
Well, and and that poses the question. Was the reason they delayed it because of development, or is it because of bad timing?
Development.
Yeah,
I don't
think
Nintendo
it's
cares about bad timing.
I don't know. The other thought with Freight's question is that Zelda has a track record of being released multi-platform. It happened with the Twilight Princess, where Twilight Princess was an often delayed GameCube game that was a pipe dream for a long time, and then what happened was it was delayed and eventually rolled into a launch title with the Wii, and then it came out for the Wii at launch, and then a month later for the GameCube on the system it was supposed to come out for. So I think it begs the question, the often rumored Switch Pro, which I still think exists. I still think that we'll get a Switch Pro.
2?
I think we'll get a Switch Pro before we get a Switch 2. I think the Switch is in so many households that they're going to want to keep developing for that platform and just give us
They said recently it's about halfway through its life cycle.
Yeah, I would guess a refresh, something, if the DS Lite is to the original DS, then maybe we're going to get the DSi rendition of the Nintendo Switch at some point and have it be the Switch Pro. And it wouldn't be surprised to see it come out. And if I were a betting man, I would say it would be something along the lines of this isn't going to be a game that's released on both the Switch Pro and the Nintendo Switch. It will be a game that comes out, that cartridge goes into your system, and if you have a Switch Pro, it performs in this way. If you have a Nintendo Switch, it performs in this way. And you'll have that graphical advancement, possibly, you know, a patch or something along those lines that gives you the upgrades that only this system can handle. But I think if that ends up being the case, people will look back at this delay a lot differently than if it just comes out for the Switch.
And that's kind of what my other theory had been. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it was like the old Xenoblade on Wii U. There was like a DLC pack that you could get for free that was just like an up-res to different textures and stuff.
Yep.
So I imagine it would be something like that. But aside, back to the backtracking just a little bit, I think the way Nintendo works is, I know I'm the resident Sony guy here, and I'm not a huge Nintendo guy, but I just feel like Nintendo doesn't work to the same beat that all the other game companies do. They do their own thing. And it's, you know, I think it's reasonable enough to assume that they're delaying it because of competition, right? But realistically, Nintendo games for the most part are, I don't want to say they are offerings to a different audience, but they're offerings to everyone, right? And if you're going to buy Breath of the Wild, you're going to buy Breath of the Wild no matter what other game's coming out, right?
Sure.
So I don't think they're worried about competition per se, but I don't know. I mean, we never know. We never figure out what's going on inside of Nintendo. Like, the best we've ever come to it is what Iwata asks, and that's about it. So it's tough to say with Nintendo. We just never know what they're doing. They're so weird.
Well, and they just don't provide a lot of information like the other companies do.
Yeah, 100%. They keep those cards close. That's for sure.
And whatever they're doing, it works. So
yeah,
more power to them.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
If they're coming out with the Switch Pro, though, they better get on it with that Steam Deck creeping up on it. In terms of handheld.
Steam Deck is a beast.
Game Informer maybe had a April Fool's joke that was Steam announces the Steam Deck Pro and it's just a fucking laptop. Pretty good.
Game Enforcer.
Yeah.
I will say I hope there's not a Switch Pro anytime soon because I just got the OLED and I don't want to upgrade again.
Yep.
These half life cycle consoles I'm not a huge fan of, but I guess it is good in the end to expand a life cycle's length.
I'm a sucker, man. I get the OLED on day one. I had a DS, a DS Lite, a DSi, a DSi XL, a 3DS, a 2DS, a 2DS XL. I'm a fucking monster. I'm part of the problem.
Do you have the 3DS XL?
It's a great system.
I never had a 3DS. Last DS I had was the DS Lite.
The best of the DSs, truly. Game Boy Advance slot,
I got one in college. I played a few games on it, and then it went in a box with the rest of the DS and Game Boys that I've got.
I lived through so many console generations that I somehow, through the years, have managed to, I'm pretty sure, I don't think there's a gap. The only thing that I can think of is I'm not positive if my red and blue Pokemon are all the way up to my Pokemon Home or Pokemon Bank, whatever the current one is, but
you've just traded them all the way up?
There's just always been a way to upgrade and trade from this generation to that generation. Game Boy Color to the Game Boy Advance is the only one that I have a question of, but I remember putting my DS cartridge in my Game Boy Advance cartridge into the bottom and then transferred the Pokemon from there. The DS ones made it through to the 3DS. The 3DS made it into Pokemon Bank, I believe. The Bank transferred over to Pokemon Home. I mean, I've got too many Pokemon.
Realistically, you might have a Pokemon that's older than I am.
I think I do.
Oh my god.
I do. Certainly possible.
Holy crap.
Yeah, my Pokemon have been around, man.
I will say one thing kind of to bring it back. Yes, poor Mr. Pokemon.
They are your elders.
To bring it back to Sony, all this new handheld stuff that's going on recently, give me a Vita 2. I'm begging you, Sony. I want a Vita again. I want another handheld.
Yeah, it's tough.
They were so good.
Vita was ahead of its time, maybe? I don't know.
I would say so. It just wasn't well supported. That was their problem.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, there's something to be said about that, though. I mean, Sony does such a great job with their platform that they have. Why would they try to diverge into two different platforms?
Yeah, and it could. At the same time that they killed the Vita, they started really asserting themselves into their first-party console games too. Like, I think Freight's got a point there of like
their business strategy has changed a lot. But so has the handheld landscape. So
yeah, and you look at Switch too, like Nintendo sticking to what they're good at as well, and that's like I think I'd have to do some research. Like, I mean, the Wii was a huge home console success, kind of like a crossover hit with different generations and whatnot. But I think historically, like Game Boys and DSs have outsold the Nintendo home consoles. To kind of consolidate that and make one that's both, and then see the success that Nintendo's having. I think these guys are all kind of figuring it out. You know?
Yeah,
I think so.
I have to agree with that because I mean, when I think back on a Nintendo console of any kind, I think back to a Game Boy. I mean, a Game Boy is a household name.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
When your grandmother calls your Switch a Game Boy, you know that the Game Boy is a household name. Yeah.
Or your Vita a Game Boy, which I think
yeah.
people probably called Vitas Game Boys more than they called them Vitas. Sorry.
Heresy.
All right. Back to some Sony news. Kaulin, you want to hit state of play first? General state of play?
Yeah, for sure. We'll just kind of speed through it because there was quite a bit to it.
Quite a bit and nothing.
Yeah, nothing like giant. It was their Japanese focused state of play.
That's right.
So it focused on their Japanese developers for the most part. So first off, Capcom revealed the biggest letdown of the show for some people. Not Dino Crisis. It was Exo Primal. It's a game with dinosaurs in like a Left 4 Dead style. It looks like Left 4 Dead but dinosaurs. Kind of looks fun. I'm gonna admit it looks fun, but we'll see how it rolls out. They had a Ghostwire Tokyo launch trailer. Then they announced a new Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin demo, which this was before both of those released. They showed new gameplay for Forspoken, which I'm very excited for Forspoken. Yeah. This was a day or two after its delay. So I bet this was in the plans to be like launching in a month, but instead it got delayed. So they just took that out.
Luckily, it's the best showing of Forspoken yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's shaping up to be really cool looking.
Tabata, I think, is doing Forspoken. Is that right? I might have that.
I'm not sure. It's Luminous Productions. It's got a lot of the people that worked on. I think it's the director for Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I like Final Fantasy 15. So, there was Gundam Evolution, which is like a Gundam Overwatch looking game. Yeah. It's free to play, from my understanding at least. There was Jake's gonna like this. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, the Cowabunga collection.
This was just gigantic for me.
Yeah, I'm not huge on like Ninja Turtles. I didn't grow up with Ninja Turtles, but there's a lot of game in that game.
Yeah, it's basically 8 Ninja Turtles games, and it has the one you're thinking of, whichever one that is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have been gaming for a long time, but I wasn't always on the cutting edge like I am now. So when I was a kid, it was a lot of licensed stuff. So I played, like, I was just super into Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, and I think I played every Ninja Turtle and Power Ranger game that came out all the way back to the, black and white, green and white Game Boy days, and those games are included on it. So it's a really comprehensive collection and a total surprise, especially with the impending
Shredder's Revenge
already announced. Yeah, which looks fantastic, obviously.
Yeah.
And this is going to wet the whistle before that comes out, which is pretty exciting. Really looking forward to some of those and revisiting. I mean, it's got the classic Ninja Turtles arcade game. It's got Turtles in Time from the Super Nintendo. It's got some of those deep cut ones like something Mutants Take Manhattan, I want to say, is the name of like Ninja Turtles 3 for the NES, which is like one of the 3 NES games I have left from my childhood that I didn't trade into GameStop when I was a kid to buy like fucking games.
Isn't that a shame though, getting rid of all those old games and you just wish you had them back?
It's such a double-edged sword. That concept comes up more often than you'd think, and I think I've settled on like I have forced myself to make peace with that, and this is how I do so. When I was a kid, I didn't have disposable income. I mean, my parents, credit to them, treated me to, a decent amount of video games, and I was lucky enough to have that. But as far as like making my own decisions, if it wasn't my birthday or a holiday, or I think if I failed the math test, I wasn't getting the new game that I wanted. And the only way that I would be able to get those games that I experienced, there are so many things I would have missed out on if it wasn't for me ditching those games. So every decision that I made to get myself to the place that I am today and to be a fan of the franchises that I've been a fan of for as long as I have been was worth it. I think a good way to wrestle with that idea, because in reality, I'd probably rather have those games. I'd be sitting on a fucking fortune.
See, I just got rid of all my PS2 games, and they're not valuable, but I just wish I had them for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah, for sure.
But then continuing, we had Kaiju Brawler Giga Bash. It's like a top-down 4v4, or maybe it's just 4-player. It's a game where you play Godzillas and fight each other in a city.
Yeah, look cool.
I mean, I bet it would make like a good like a one-off stream or something like that.
Yeah.
There's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fighting game. It's JoJo's All-Star Battle R. So it is a remaster of the PS3 game. Which, if you're a JoJo fan and a fighting game fan, that seems cool.
Do your poses, JoJo poses, isn't that a thing?
Yeah. JoJo's very iconic. There was a new trailer for Trek to Yomai, which is like a 2D Kurosawa. Did I say that right this time? I said it wrong last time.
Good enough. People know what you mean.
Yeah, black and white, like Japanese
this is a cool
fighting
video game.
It looks really cool.
Yeah.
Gives me like Inside mixed with Ghost of Tsushima vibes. Could be completely wrong in that, but that's kind of the vibes that it gives me. Super cool looking game. Then moving on to my favorite thing, a freaking Returnal DLC. It's not even a DLC, it's an update. It's a free update to Returnal that adds co-op and a challenge mode called the Tower of Sisyphus. So in like Greek mythology, the Tower of Sisyphus is like a endless tower. So naturally, this is a challenge mode where they're just endlessly climbing the tower. I haven't actually played it yet. I've been meaning to play it. I need to hop into the co-op to see how that plays. But the good news is, later on we'll talk more about it, but Returnal's coming to PlayStation Plus Deluxe. No. What's the middle tier
premium
called?
Standard? We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. Extra. That's it.
God.
Yeah, it's tough. Square Enix then announced the new strategy RPG called the Diofield Chronicles. They wanted this one to be
excited for that one.
Yeah, they wanted it to be very easily Google searched, so they had to pick such an odd name. But it's like XCOM, but not. I mean, it looks like it plays like XCOM. It's not grid based like Final Fantasy Tactics, but it is more open, kind of like you can think of Gears Tactics or XCOM. I lost the word there for a second. And then Valkyrie
plus
Elysium
Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Yeah, Mario Rabbids. Yeah. Speaking of which, we haven't heard about that second game in quite a while.
This year, allegedly. Early announcement.
Still?
Ubisoft style.
Yeah, naturally. And then the last one, which a lot of people were excited for, was Valkyrie Elysium. It kind of looks like Nier Combat almost. I know we've mentioned Nier already this episode. Looks really cool. It kind of has like that washed out look that Babylon's Fall had recently, so I'm not sure about that. But it's a follow-up. I don't really know if it's a direct sequel, but it's the next game in the Valkyrie Profile series, which the last mainline entry for this was back in 2006 on the PS2. So there's lots of people excited for this, I believe. And I'm definitely going to be playing this. It looks right up my alley. But that's
you had me
all
at Square
of the
Enix
state of play.
JRPG.
Yeah. Well, you have two of these here. Except one of them's a tactical RPG, strategy RPG. Yeah. it was a good showing. People got their hopes up for it naturally because when they said Japanese, everyone thought Final Fantasy 16. I
Guilty,
did too.
Man. Where the fuck is Final Fantasy 16?
I don't know, man. They got to show something.
I was waiting the entire show.
That game is. Sorry to make this a Final Fantasy 16 conversation, but I tend to do this.
It's okay.
That game looked so. It came out of the blue, and they showed it, and it looked like it was going to be a CG cutscene. Just, hey, it's a title trailer.
Yeah.
16's in development. And then, like, during that PlayStation 5 showcase, it had, like, gameplay. It looked so much further along than so many of the things that we looked at. And I was so excited. And now it's just been radio silence for, like, pushing 2 years, more than a year for sure, of nothing. And it's always tough with those Square Enix games because, especially with something that has Final Fantasy in the name, I think the whole world is waiting with bated breath for Remake Part 2 after being, strung along here for Remake Part 1, having that only be a fraction of the game. And obviously everything is contingent. They're not going to drop, listen, 16's not going to come out in October and then 7 Remake 2 in November, It's going to be another period of time until this. So I wonder what the plan is behind the scenes. I don't know. But
I can't help but when we saw that gameplay, it looked good, but it looked incomplete, right? It was a little rough around the edges. The graphics themselves weren't looking that good. I'm gonna be honest. I think Cyberpunk, when it came out, it scared a lot of developers, and I think it really pushed developers to hold onto their games longer and work on them longer, which I'm all for. It sucks to wait, but it's good at the end.
To another level, it's Naoki Yoshida is the director of Final Fantasy 16, whose previous work current work is fixing the abomination that was 1.0 of Final Fantasy 14. So he just put out Endwalker at the end of last year, the fourth expansion to that fourth expansion to that game, and is credited with rescuing a game that came out too early and came out unfinished. So there's a lot of that playing into that that whole situation with 16. So I think they need a win for numbered Final Fantasies as well, because 15 being the last one is a pretty divisive game. I'm a big 15 defender, and there's not many of us out there. Freight, where do you stand on 15?
Oh, absolutely a defender.
Nice.
Yeah, me as well. Me as well.
Best. Okay, I won't say it's the best. You'll know what I'm talking about. We're not going to spoil. I wouldn't say it's the best ending in Final Fantasy games, but it is the best final moment in Final Fantasy games. You know what I'm speaking about?
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, it was a great final chapter, final moment, I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah, it does a thing where it sticks its ending. Yeah, it does a thing where it sticks its landing in a very unique way. I think 15 is far enough away. It's the only Final Fantasy game that has like an ending and a climax that sticks to the words Final Fantasy, which is a very interesting thing. And it does this thing where at the very I won't do it. I've gone too far already.
Yeah,
tune into my Twitch chat and ask me about the Final Fantasy 15 ending, and I'll spoil it there. But it's too good to give away here in specifics.
Yeah,
it definitely was heartbreaking. I will put it that way, and not in a bad way. Like it was a great ending. But yeah, I won't say anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Good game, but
good game. Yeah. Everybody agrees.
I think so. Everyone on this podcast, at least. And if you don't agree and you're listening to this podcast, let us know. Put it in
the comments.
Put it in the comments. Yeah.
All right. From PlayStation news, we're gonna transition into PlayStation news, because peppered throughout this entire thing, this entire month was a just slow trickle of PlayStation information. So let's hop into. I'll get Kaulin. Kaulin has been digging into PlayStation stuff all month. I'll take the head on the next bit of information. We'll dig into Hogwarts Legacy, which is honestly in the video game world a pretty fucking sensitive subject these days. Obviously there's a ton of criticism that the franchise itself that it's based off of gets, and it is all completely warranted, and we're not here to defend anybody, that's for fucking sure, because the things that this woman has said are absolutely fucking abysmal. But the game itself, speaking from strictly that standpoint, looks pretty fucking good. Like, I don't think anybody was really expecting to see this game in its current state and be as technically impressed with it as they were, which was a pleasant surprise. I mean, say what you will about the state of it now and those reviews for that new Fantastic Beasts, which is apparently a hot fucking mess. Hogwarts Legacy is delivering on, I think, what a lot of kids dreamed a Harry Potter game could be. You're unleashed in this magical world. You have free reign over Hogwarts and its winding halls, and you can go to Hogsmeade, and it looks like you might be able to play Quidditch. You can definitely fly around on a broom and explore all types of stuff. What did you guys think of the gameplay footage?
I think it's the most excited I've been for anything Harry Potter related.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I mean, the gameplay looks great.
Yeah, I mean, graphically sound, it's obviously tough to tell how it plays, but there was gameplay showcased. I think the fact that I'm not sure how open the grounds are around Hogwarts outside of like the open environments of Hogwarts itself, but there was footage of flying around on a broom, which looked pretty satisfying as well. All in all, it looks like a third-person action RPG that is going to be a blast to explore and play. There's a lot of things that really surprised me from it. Everything from, standard stuff like the combat and the magic system, but they had the Room of Requirement where there's like a little bit of a base building element peppered into it as well. I think the surprise of getting off of the Hogwarts grounds and actually being able to go to Hogsmeade is pretty impressive. I think this game has quite a bit to offer, and it's on the schedule for 2022.
And I will. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's being developed by Avalanche Games. If you don't know any of their past projects, you can think of the Just Cause series, which is a very large departure. They also helped co-develop Rage 2, the Mad Max game, and Generation Zero.
Okay.
So they have some stinkers in there, but I will say all around, they do a really good job at just environments.
Yeah.
I've not explored one of their games that I didn't think the environment was super interesting. And I think them creating a environment within Harry Potter is very interesting to me, very appealing.
For sure.
And I'm super excited to see what they've got to offer us, because I like that studio. I think they'd make great work sometimes. But yeah, it's I'm excited to see them back in a good view again.
Yeah, I think it's easy to look at this game and I think make comparisons to a lot of like existing franchises that are out there. One thing that I really couldn't get over the whole time that I was watching it, especially like the outdoor gameplay, is this game gives me Fable vibes in such a big way. And I don't know if I've ever felt that from another Harry Potter game. And as I think about it, the Fable universe is kind of similar. But no Harry Potter games in the past have kind of captured that same thing. But it seems like such a natural comparison to make, to be honest. But
yeah. And I will also mention it's not being solely developed by Avalanche, but they're helping with Portkey Games, which I believe is like a studio specifically for Harry Potter stuff. I've never seen anything else Portkey Games, but it's also like Warner.
I think they've been involved with like, what was the AR game for Harry Potter? That's kind of like Pokemon Go. It sucks.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was called. And it's also Warner Brothers games. They're like publishing it and whatnot. So it's very promising, and I'm very excited for it. And it's also coming to Switch, which is very interesting.
I wonder if that'll be one of those ports that's just a fucking nightmare to play.
It's got to be one of the cloud ones, right?
That would probably make sense. I don't think that's been officially announced, but I can't see how they're going to pull off what I'm seeing on screen right now.
Yeah. Has anybody ever played one of those cloud games?
No. I played that Kingdom Hearts demo. It was abysmal. But that, I think, is an outlier. From what I hear, some of those games can be okay.
Okay.
Cloud-wise. But it's dependent on internet, and I think it takes away from what... I think the cloud games are for a very specific type of person somebody that's playing their Switch docked more often than not, or in places with Wi-Fi and stable Wi-Fi. I feel like when I break out my Switch in portable mode, it's because I'm like, I don't know, in a car or in a plane where there isn't Wi-Fi steadily available.
Yeah.
So it kind of I don't know. The alternative seems like just play it on the console that's plugged in next to it more often than not, which is going to be the better move for sure.
Yeah.
But all right, from 2 batches of Sony news to an additional batch of Sony news.
Possibly the biggest batch, maybe?
Yeah. Listen, Kaulin did some deep investigative journalism on what's up with PlayStation Plus. It's on you, buddy. Good luck.
I was gonna say hire me IGN, but I saw a tweet recently where they paid $20 per article, and I was like,
I'll
pass IGN.
I saw that.
Up to 50, and
it's actually up to 300 if it's like a giant piece or whatever.
Multi-sourced investigative journalism.
Yeah. Do you think this counts as multi-sourced investigative journalism? Probably not.
I think so.
Pretty much what I did here is I did math.
This stream brought to you by IGN. Continue.
Yeah, and Jeff Keighley. Don't forget Jeff
Keighley.
Obviously.
Friend of the show.
So I do want to start this off by saying PlayStation unveiled their revamped PlayStation Plus. It has been rumored for a while. I think we've spoken probably once per episode recently of, hey, when is Project Spartacus going to be announced? Because that's what it was called. I think journalists specifically did a bad job covering this. I think all the rumors, they said, oh, they're working on a Game Pass competitor, and I don't see this as a Game Pass competitor. I can see how there are similarities, but Sony never billed it as a Game Pass competitor themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it is. I don't think it truly reaches the level to compete. But
give us the brass tacks on what they gave us for information.
Yeah, so they broke down and they gave us 3 different tiers, or 4 if you're in a region that doesn't have PS Now streaming capabilities. But there's PlayStation Essential. So PlayStation Essential is essentially, do you like what I did there? It's essentially the exact same thing that PlayStation Plus is now. You get your 2 monthly downloadable games, exclusive discounts, cloud storage, online multiplayer access, and it's the exact same. I will say some people are mad where it says 2 games, but it wasn't until just recently that they started giving more than 2 games per month. That started right when the PS5 released, and now people are so used to it, they're mad that at some point it's going to go back down to 2.
Yep.
So that is the exact same thing that we have now for the exact same price, $10 a month or $60 yearly. There's PlayStation Extra. So Extra is the second tier. Extra provides all of the benefits from Essential, the first tier, and then it adds a catalog of up to 400 of the most enjoyable PS4 and PS5 games. The wording there is insane.
Why limit yourself?
But pretty much,
sky's the limit.
I know, right?
You're getting 800.
I know, yeah. Just they should have said a minimum number, I think, instead of a maximum number. But it adds a catalog of up to 400, and the 400 also has an asterisk by it, so that can be changed at any time, right? So including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners, games in Extra tier are downloadable for play. So when you look at this tier, you see PS4 and PS5 games, a giant library. Would you guys say 400 is a giant library? I would say so.
Yeah. It's so many games.
It's a lot of games. So all of those are downloadable. None of those are streaming, right? And from the wording, you can't stream on this tier. You can't stream games on this tier. You can only download them. Yep. So that is the Essential plus 400 games for $14.99 a month or $99 yearly. So that's the same monthly cost as Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, but less yearly cost because they give you like the deal if you get the whole year. And we'll compare it more to Game Pass in a minute just for reference. And then there's the top tier, PlayStation Plus Premium. It provides all the benefits of the other tier, plus up to 340 additional games consisting of PS3 games via cloud streaming, original PlayStation games, PS2 games, and PSP games available in both streaming and download options. So, from my understanding of that, that means that they are either downloadable, the PS1, 2, and 3, I'm sorry, PS1, 2, and Vita games are either downloadable or streamable. I don't know if all of the 1, 2, and 3 game, or I keep saying 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, and PSP games will be downloadable. I imagine there will be a selection of certain ones that you can download. But we don't know that yet. It has not been confirmed. Let's see. It also involves limited time game trials that will be offered. So customers can try select games before they buy. So my interpretation of this isn't that it's going to be demos like we already have locked behind paywalls. My interpretation of this is you're just going to download a game and it's going to have like a 3-hour timer on that game.
Yeah. Yep.
And then after that, you won't be able to play it unless you buy it. So I like that. I like that I could possibly download any game and just play it for a couple hours to see if I like it or not. So that is $17.99 a month, $18, or $120 yearly. So that's all that broken down. And then there's PlayStation Plus Deluxe in select markets without streaming capabilities. Yep. They will offer all of the benefits of premium except for the PS3 games at a lower price, but they do not say the price because it is varying by market. So that's a lot to take in. It's a lot of fine print. But to dial it down, there's Essential, which is what we have now. Extra, which is what we have now, plus 400 games to download of PS4 and PS5.
Yep.
And Premium, which is what we have now, those 400 games, plus 300 or so other games from even farther back generations.
Yep.
So I was like, everyone seems super let down by this. Everyone was expecting PlayStation games day one. See, I thought so too at first until I ran the numbers. Okay. So I ran some numbers, and this is going to be a lot of just numbers spit out. So
crunch them.
Yeah. So we are comparing Game Pass Ultimate with PlayStation Plus Premium, the two highest tiers that you can get. And I'm not making this comparison to say one is better than the other. I'm just making this comparison to give you a frame of reference because evidently everyone loves Game Pass. So the monthly cost of Game Pass Ultimate is $15. The monthly cost of PlayStation Plus Premium is $18. But if you buy Premium with a year subscription, you get it for $120 versus a year of Ultimate being $180. So you're going to save some money there if you buy it per year.
If you go annually, you're going to save.
Yeah. So I looked into the Game Pass Ultimate catalog for the games on Game Pass, specifically on the Xbox. There are 8 duplicate games that are, say, Mass Effect from the Xbox 360 and Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So I counted that as a duplicate. And there are 65 games from previous generations, whether it be Xbox or Xbox 360, offered on Game Pass. So while there are 65 previous gen games on Xbox Game Pass, on PlayStation Plus Premium, there are 340. So that's quite a big difference there. A lot more past gen support on Premium. But again, we're not taking into account just backwards compatibility that you get from Xbox anyways.
For sure.
For the current gen, there were 388 games on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. We're considering current gen Xbox One and Series consoles and PS4 and PS5.
They've basically combined those, so
yeah, more or less.
Barely do the same.
Yeah, so current gen for Xbox is 388. Current gen for PlayStation Plus Premium is 400. So it's more there as well. And then the total games available for Xbox is $453. For PlayStation is $740. So then I broke it down just into games per dollar if you're paying per month. So you're getting 30.2 games per dollar per month with Game Pass if you pay per month. For PlayStation Plus Premium, you're getting 41.1 games per month if you're paying per month.
A bit of an edge.
Yeah. If you're paying in year with a year, like if you're buying a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, or if you're buying a year of PlayStation Plus Premium, since you get the yearly deal, games per dollar per year on Game Pass is 2.5. Games per dollar per year on PS Plus Premium is 6.2.
All right.
Old gen games per dollar per year is 0.36 on Xbox, and it is 2.8 on PlayStation Plus Premium.
That's staggering, and honestly, maybe the most important stat of all of those, because of how big of a difference there is, and how important to, I guess, I don't know if I'm the average consumer here, but I like the retro stuff. I like the ability to go back and play a bigger catalog.
Yeah. And like for me specifically, I have to do it. If Sly Cooper is one of these games that I'm offered, which I know it will be.
I just saw FrateTrain die on stream.
It's worth it. I would pay $200 a year to play Sly Cooper on my console.
Of course.
Yeah, and then current games per dollar per year is 2.2 on Ultimate and 3.3 on Premium. So I say that, I break it down because when the news broke, everyone was like, this is expensive and I'm not getting anything for it. But when you do the math, you're getting actually quite a bit more on PlayStation Plus Premium than you are on Game Pass.
The problem I think that most people have, and that the argument would be to all the math and whatnot, is there's only so many hours in the day. I can't play all of these games. But it speaks more so to the variety of options that you have that you're paying for via the service.
And I'll get to my point on why I think the public reception is bad. But there are a couple things that don't really equate to dollar value very well that I would like to bring up. Game Pass Ultimate, you get PC games. You don't get PC games on PlayStation Plus Premium. For streaming, you have access to xCloud on Xbox Game Pass, but you have to stream the PS3 games on Ultimate or on Premium.
Yep.
For monthly free games, you get those for both. You get discounts for both of them.
Yep.
You only get EA game trials on Game Pass Ultimate because of their EA Play deal or whatever.
Yep. Rolled in.
We don't know the full extent of what the game trials will be for PlayStation. First party day one, yes on Ultimate, no on PlayStation. And then third party day one for Ultimate sometimes. And we don't know yet for Premium, but I would imagine so.
Do you want to finish your spiel, or should we dig into maybe the biggest difference in the catalyst of this conversation probably?
Well, I know what the biggest catalyst is, but I think the reason the reception is so bad, and I think the reason they tried to rebrand from PlayStation Now is just because when PlayStation Now came out, they had such a hard time marketing it, and they've had such a hard time distancing themselves from that marketing. And I think they're having a hard time now because of the way people reported on this before it was announced.
Yeah.
No, we're not getting the day one first party games. But if I'm going to be honest, I don't care about 90% of the Xbox day one first party games, and they come a lot less often than PlayStation's do.
Let me ask.
Yeah.
Freight, where do you stand just like factually? Are you an Xbox and a PlayStation owner?
I own the current gen of PlayStation. I do not own the current generation of Xbox.
Yep.
But I am a diehard Xbox fan.
Do you have a Xbox One?
I do have an Xbox One. The only reason I have not bought the current generation is for the reason that Kaulin just mentioned, is just because they have Game Pass on the computer. So I have no reason to buy.
So Freight and I are in the exact same boat. I want a Series X. I don't need a Series X. Everything that's come out for Series X has either been available on my PC or on Xbox One so far. And I think from like a consumer standpoint, it's worth noting that I'm a piece of human garbage that's obsessed with subscriptions, and I'm going to end up with whatever the maximum one is that I can't remember the name of, and I'll have both of these right off the jump. However, with Xbox, I think the difference with Xbox Game Pass and this PlayStation Plus thing is that PlayStation Plus just somehow took an already complicated system, or two complicated systems, and combined them to one complicated system, and Game Pass has put on the forefront here simplification. It's all this stuff.
That's fair.
It's wherever you need it. It's wherever you want it, and it's all of it. If the game comes out, it's yours. If it's Microsoft property, it's yours. You want to play it on Series X? Go ahead. You want to play it on Xbox One? You're welcome to. You want to get it on PC? Probably an option. It
or on your phone.
Yeah, honestly, xCloud. You want to get it on your laptop, at your mom's house. You can do that as long as her internet's halfway decent.
To be fair, you can also do that on your phone on PlayStation.
Right.
By
That's true. For some
remote
games.
Play.
That's true. But nonetheless, I think the thing to circle back on is day one exclusives. And I get that there is a difference in, I mean, I don't know if it's like necessarily quality, because Xbox puts out some bangers. Forza Horizon 5 is a blast. Halo Infinite, for all of its faults, is a good first-party offering from Microsoft. But Sony has, drawn a line in the sand and said, our big-budget first-party titles are not coming to this service, which it's really tough, to Colleen's point about why they're struggling to market this thing, when the first thing that everybody looks at is not what you're offering, it's what you're not offering. That's a tough
also
sell.
Just an asterisk to that. They're not coming day one, but they are coming.
Yeah,
there will be first party stuff, just not day one. I imagine it'll be like a year out they'll add it or something along those lines.
And in the long run, I think, despite being overall probably unsatisfied, like the vast majority of consumers, even with all of the information and all of the value that I see there, as a gamer, I'm gonna buy it. I'm just slightly less happy about it than I thought I would be, but I see the correlation, and as much as I'm disappointed in it, I understand what they're going for as well. And what I've basically sort of thought about on how I process this in my head is that Microsoft has created Game Pass, which is becoming the Netflix of gaming, and PlayStation is taking the Disney Plus route. Netflix has exclusive, it has movies that come out that are only available on Netflix, by all means. Disney Plus has things that come out that are only for Disney Plus as well, but they're still banking on these gigantic franchises like Spider-Man, like Avengers, like Marvel
box
properties
office
that still go to theaters, and nobody wags a finger at them for that, because the content that they're creating is worth it. And Sony, let's be honest, they have Microsoft beat with that. They have franchise on top of franchise and game on top of game that they know they can flex, because suckers like me don't want to wait. As easy as it would be to wait until December of this year to watch Doctor Strange on Disney Plus, I pre-ordered tickets today so I can go see it and be a part of the conversation and get in on it on day one,
Yeah.
And that's not to say I'm not excited for, Forza 9 or whatever the fuck the next Forza Motorsport game is, but I know it's going to be there for me on day one, and it's something that I maybe wouldn't go out and purchase at full price, and Microsoft kind of knows that. They know that they're trying to play catch up, and I get that there's, again, more asterisks, more complication. Microsoft has Bethesda now, so, Elder Scrolls, and there's a bunch of games that are going to be technically first-party titles that come to Game Pass, and this conversation will change and evolve as time goes on, and they'll all have to adapt to each other. But in the long run, as much as Sony is getting knocked, I see what they're going for as well, and they fucking got me.
And I gotta say, in the end, I think it really comes down to Xbox is backed by Microsoft's wallet, and I don't see they're loss leading on Game Pass. I can't see a way that they're making money on Game Pass. Of all of the deals that they're having to make with third party publishers and their day one games going straight to Game Pass, I don't see how they're making a true profit off of it.
The answer is they're making a tiny bit of profit, if not, but they're getting people into the ecosystem.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think they're loss leading just to get people into the ecosystem. I don't think that
green Kool-Aid.
Yeah. It's just not something that Sony could make happen because they don't have that kind of money backing them. You know, like Xbox would have went under if it was a singular company. If it weren't a Microsoft company, I don't think they would have made it this far.
They would also had different business strategy though.
I mean, maybe, but if they made all the same decisions that they made with the Xbox One generation and they weren't backed by Microsoft, I don't know if we'd be seeing an Xbox Series X. They took such a loss. They had to do something. They had to do something radical, and that's where Game Pass came from. And it works. Game Pass is awesome. You know, I'm a Sony guy, but if more people are playing games, that's great. You know, gaming is my favorite hobby ever, and I want more people to experience that. So I think it's awesome.
Well, and I to that point though, I think that's a big problem with the PlayStation Plus plan that they're coming out with, because you know, talking about not having these new games day one, whereas Xbox Game Pass does, that's a huge problem. And the fact that, you know, everybody wants to play the game when it's hot. They want to play it the day it comes out. They want to play it with their friends who are going to beat the game well before I get access to the game, because I don't have enough money or disposable income to buy a $60 or $70, apparently, as prices seem to be going up, a brand new game as soon as it comes out, not to mention a handful of games that all come out in the same month. Whereas with the plan, you could pay $16, $20, whatever, and get access to day one on Game Pass, whereas PlayStation's not going to let you do that. You're going to have to wait a whole year, and nobody's going to want to play anymore at that point because, oh, well, this game just came out. Why the hell would I go back and play this with you?
Yep. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I would call it a problem, just because this wasn't an issue until people were gorging on it, right? Like before Game Pass, nobody was mad that a new game came out and they couldn't play it for $15 a month, right? And like realistically, if you want to play new games for cheap every time, use GameFly. GameFly, sponsor me.
Jesus Christ.
But I just think like people being upset at PS Plus Premium is outrageous based on the value. Yeah. I think that people, I think with numbers and facts, and the numbers and facts show that PS Plus Premium is good. It may not be Game Pass, but the only reason it's not Game Pass is because of that first party day one.
And I think there's a lot of like the video game community as a whole, we're probably all three guilty of it, and I think a lot of like the way that conversations on the internet go, people like to, it's like it's not water or food. Like if you don't like it, you don't have to fucking buy it. Like you can just fuck off about it. But everybody's got something to say, and it's not a good deal, and they feel like I don't know, maybe I've just had this like epiphany of like I'm a self-admitted like consumerist monster. Like if you market it at me enough, and if it's got bright and flashy lights, I'll pay money to go see it in theaters. And if it's got a title that's based off of a franchise that I'm interested in, I'll go play it for the most reasonable way that I can access it. If that's subscribing to Game Pass so that I can play Halo, so be it. If it's because, Jesus, why did Last of Us 3 just pop into my head? You get this one, Kaulin. If Last of Us 3 is only available for $70 for PlayStation 5 and not available on the streaming service, I'm just going to go fucking buy it. And I know that that's a problem and it's not an option for many people, and I know that it's probably not the standard, but like these are all wants, not needs. So the fact that there are people that are so divided that we need to go and jump through these hoops to bring the information and to look at it in different ways is frankly disappointing.
Yeah.
I wish that more people would just, I don't know. I mean, everyone's entitled to have an opinion, and we all three do here, and I do as well. I'm honestly underwhelmed. I am whelmed by the offerings, but in the long run, I'm just, looking for different ways to obtain my games. Like, let me play those 3 Ratchet and Clank games. They're stuck on the PlayStation 3 right now.
And I more or less, I wasn't underwhelmed or overwhelmed by this new release at all, because I mean, it's what I expected, right? I kept my expectations in check, and I don't know, it sounds dumb, but it's like I knew what Sony was gonna do, right? Like they're not gonna put their games day one, and I think it's this right here. I don't know what about it is more attractive to me than paying for PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now separately. But there's something there that's like, I got to get that, right? Maybe it is just the fact that there are tiers, and me being me, I always want the best thing, So since it's not 2 separate products, it's one product with different tiers, it entices people to pay for the best thing there is. Yeah. And aside, I don't know. I think they are good solutions for gamers who can't buy every game.
Yeah.
You might have to wait a little longer for PlayStation, but you're still getting that stuff. And the thing is, like, people still love PlayStation games years after they release, because they put out God of War and Horizon on PC recently, and they sold millions, right? Yeah. So there's an audience there for later releases. It might suck, but if it's your only option, it's still a pretty good option. And I think Game Pass is awesome. I'm not a subscriber to Game Pass because I don't play my Xbox very much. But I think it's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And
the good news is that there's 25 million people that are, which is a staggering number. And from my limited research, i.e. Googling things on my other monitor just now, it looks like there are 3.2 million believers in PlayStation Now currently, which means that PlayStation Plus number, rolling it in and offering tiers, is probably going to make that grow exponentially, but Microsoft has a really big lead. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for sure.
And I still think it has a lot of value. And in all honesty, I mean, being a green Kool-Aid person drinking from the Xbox fountain, I mean, the new plan definitely has some value to it. I mean, the numbers that Kaulin spouted, how many games you get per dollar, and the amount of nostalgia that you get out of it, on how far back that library goes. I mean, there's a lot to be said and a lot of value there.
Without a doubt.
It just, for me, I mean, wanting to play things as it comes out, it is about what is it missing in those day ones. But
and I imagine it will be missing the first party day ones, but I totally see them doing the third party day ones, like Weird West. I see them adding games like that day one. If their subscribers get high enough and they see that it makes sense, sure. And PlayStation's really good about working with developers. They make investments within developers all the time, and I'm hopeful for it. And also, one thing is, like, people are always saying, like, PS Now doesn't have any good games on it, but I don't know if you guys have ever looked through that catalog. It is jam packed with awesome games.
PlayStation Now subscriber, dude.
Yeah, and like they just added Outer Wilds.
The twist at the end. I've had it all along.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh my god! And you haven't played Sly Cooper on stream?
I stream it on my PC. No. All right. Let's spin this negativity into some more negativity. You guys down to move on?
Yeah. It's a good. It's
more negative than that.
It's good.
Well, wait till I tell you about what fucking the ESA has been up to over the last couple of years. Listen, I'll make this quick. We got a long podcast going. We got a little bit more to get to, but E3 2022 has been canceled and allegedly will be back in 2023.
Not happening.
And I don't think anyone cares anymore. I get that we're through that heyday, but PlayStation led the charge on getting out while the going was good and doing their own thing. And truly, all that E3 has become is an umbrella for individual publishers to promote their stuff during a single time frame. Keighley has spoken and decided that that can happen whenever they want under his own umbrella. That doesn't require a monetary fee to get in and buy yourself awards. Now I know what you're thinking. What do you mean, buy myself awards? These motherfuckers. I'm going to give you the short version, but for almost the entire time of E3, it's worth noting that Kyle Bosman on Delayed Input has an E3 episode that goes over this and is one of the most fascinating watches that you could possibly have. I highly recommend checking it out. But the Game Critic Awards are something that happened all the way up through 2019 via E3. If you look at the fine print, the ESA, which is the brilliant minds in the business behind E3, allegedly have no affiliation with E3. So the Game Critic Awards are completely separate. However, they only exist once a year at the end of E3 to give away E3 awards. And throughout the years, they offered tons and tons of different awards to people so they could slap stickers on their boxes. That came to an end in 2020, and we got the official E3 awards, which are just calling a spade a spade. And E3 awards are an absolute nightmare. There are only 2 legitimate categories. Those categories are overall most anticipated game, which last year went to Forza Horizon 5, and best presentation, which last year went to Microsoft and Xbox Bethesda Game Studios. Both make sense. After that, you've got another category called most anticipated. But most anticipated is broken down by company. So the awards that were given out were to Capcom. Capcom's most anticipated E3 award is for their very own game, The Great Ace Attorney. Gearbox Software got a most anticipated award for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Freedom Games got one for Airborne Kingdom. Eureka Studios got their most anticipated award for Loopmancer, everyone's favorite. What I mean to say here is that the problem with E3 is not the games or the excitement. That's not what's being canceled here. It's video game developers realizing that they're being taken advantage of by another business and that they don't have to do that any longer. And as they realize that, and as the public starts to realize that, they begin to pull support and they begin to do their own thing like Sony's done. And it's all coming to a head now. COVID doesn't help. The biggest appeal of E3 from the get-go was the actual trade show itself, where people could come and network and play things that they couldn't play. With the advances of modern technology, it seems like it's the last of a dying breed. And I hope to see it back in some way because I have such fond memories for it. But E3's nostalgia, the nostalgia you have for the trade show, is not technically for the trade show. It's certainly not for the ESA, the company behind it. It's for the games that were announced in the summertime. And we're still getting those. So
under
good riddance.
Father Keeley's brand, Father Summer Keeley. Games Fest.
Yeah. Look forward to exclusive coverage from GameList next year.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna fly us out, and we're gonna be there in person. But no, I personally, like, I've loved E3 growing up. I watched like all the presentations and everything. So many of them lackluster, but so many of them really good. But I think, honestly, instead of going through the ESA, that's just a predatory company that wants to make a dime, I think Keighley's the perfect way to go. I mean, Keighley is great at picking and choosing what he wants to show, what he thinks needs to be shown. He's great at finding indie developers that just have amazing games. And I think Keighley is one of the best minds in the video game industry. And I got faith in him, man. After going to the Game Awards and seeing it in person, especially, it was just the games industry's changing. ESA couldn't change with it, but Keighley can. And I'm really happy with where it's going. Even though E3's dead, and that sucks. I never got to go to the trade show, but I got to watch all the presentations, and I know Jeff Keighley makes great presentations.
Yeah, for sure. Right, you got some fond E3 memories?
I do. Yeah, I mean, I used to love pulling it up on my computer and watching those presentations. I mean, for just like y'all, I always wanted to go, but it's one of those things. It's difficult to go to.
Without a doubt.
But I mean, thinking back to last year with the summer game show, I mean, it still has the same feel. It feels the exact same, and it's all digital. And you know, the amount of indie games, which is a big thing that I play. I love playing indie games. I mean, there was just so many, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool, but it's the thing is that it's just the game announcements that we're fond of, and it's the
times are changing.
Even the E3 presentations of old, where you would tune into a specific E3 channel, and then things would be scheduled out for you, and you'd have like, hey, here's the hands-on with this game from this person that bought this time slot, and that was pumped at you via 3 8-hour segments of footage that was either live streamed or pre-recorded that they would give to you in one constant stream. And now it's all separated and done by individual conferences, but that slowly disappeared. Those little promotional opportunities that E3 once had to essentially sell ad space, time to promote your game to a live audience, has dissipated. And as they've tried to make moves to fix that issue and make that money elsewhere, it's just backfired on them.
And it sucks that, during presentations now there's ads for other things, but you have to pay for it somehow, and I would much rather Burger King run an ad to pay for it than a developer pay for their spot, right?
For sure. Be
so.
honest. Be honest with us. Don't
but
tell
especially
me.
With indie.
Go ahead.
Especially with indie companies, I mean, they don't have enough money now as it is. I mean, they're trying to get the game out through either Kickstarter or early access or whatever.
Yeah.
They're spending every dime that they've got just to make the game, let alone for them to have to pay to say, hey, buy my game so that way I can continue to make great games. Now they can just, they can get that information out there at a cheaper price to them.
Yeah.
Which in turn helps us.
And just don't try to force feed me the fact that Eureka Studios has the most anticipated game in Loopmancer, because I've never heard of it.
I looked that up. I've never seen it before.
Nobody has.
Never.
They paid the cash, baby. They paid that money. All right. We are nearly done. We have to look ahead now to next month.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, starting to get into that late spring, early summer lull. You guys were treated with your Pokemon Legends, your Kirbys, your Elden Rings, your Final Fantasy Origins, and now it's time to shovel the rest of it out over these next couple months before we
What a
get
great start of the year, though.
Oh,
truly.
One for the history books. One for the history
absolutely.
books. But in the meantime, you've got the opportunity to check out some of these fantastic games with gold. So April's monthly games for PlayStation Plus, not games with gold. We'll get there. Those are going to be shittier. We have Hood, which is, I guess, a Robin Hood game. You know anything about this?
Hood Outlaws and Legends. It's kind of like a asymmetrical multiplayer game where you're playing against other people. It actually looks really cool. I was going to buy it when it came out, but I'm glad I waited because I'm going to play it now.
Along with SpongeBob.
I'm checking it out.
Ooh, nice. SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which is the remaster of that game from back in the day. Honestly, good free offering. And then Slay the Spire, which is something that I've sunk dozens of hours into. Really good card.
Great game.
Yeah,
great game.
Super, super fun. And then we've got what I affectionately refer to as the shit show at the Fuck Factory. We've got the Xbox games with gold. All right, let's play a game. Freight and Kaulin, you guys hold up your hand and show me as we count off how many of these games you've heard of before I read them off. All right. Another Sight. Hue. Outpost Coloki X. MX versus ATV Alive. I'll give you one for MX versus ATV. So we got a 0, a 1, and a 2. Pretty good. Pretty good, Xbox. Keep it up. Your games with gold are incredible, but Xbox Live.
Low key, the MX versus ATV games were some of my favorite games on the PS2.
Yeah, those used to be really good. It's such an interesting pattern. The developers behind that used to do ATV Off-Road Fury for the PS2, which was so dope. They pumped out 4 of them. And at the same time, they started developing MX Unleashed, which was also very good. It was like the MX answer to ATV. Then they started making the MX versus ATV
MX
series.
versus ATV.
Yeah, and there were some gems in there. Definitely some good.
So good.
mess around racing.
Yeah.
But that brings us to our very last segment of the show, and we've had so many new releases, and this month we only have 5 really to look forward to. We're recording this on April 6th, which means yesterday brought upon the release of Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Now listen, we've had 24 hours to check it out. We're not going to talk about it in depth, especially with such a little amount of stuff that's coming out next month. You got to look forward to GameList May.
Subscribe to hear more.
Yeah, subscribe right now. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, April 5th. It's fucking awesome.
What a game! What a game! Awesome. It's so good. Awesome.
All right, tomorrow, April 7th is. Oh wait, no, I'm skipping something. MLB The Show 22 came out yesterday as well. I'm not a baseball guy. I'm not a sports game guy really anymore. But if you like baseball, this is the one to play, and it's out on Game Pass. This Sony game.
Yeah. So, little insight to that. It's developed by San Diego Studios, which is owned by PlayStation, and it's a day one Game Pass game. The reason being is to license the MLB license. There was an agreement to get it out on more platforms, which led to the Switch version and it on Game Pass day one and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they want people to play their baseball.
Interesting.
Yeah,
smart. It's smart.
Sports games are really, really widely played outside of like gamers like us.
Yeah, for sure. I worked at a GameStop for a long period of time, and there was an entire type of gamer that I saw 2-3 times a year. They came in and they bought Madden, Call of Duty, and NHL. You know.
Yep.
And it's just those people. Those people are out there, and they love it, and they don't listen to this show.
FIFA.
Yeah, and FIFA.
Gotta get that FIFA.
But they don't listen to this, so fuck you, Squares.
They wouldn't know anything about Outer Wilds.
No. All right. Chrono Cross comes out tomorrow. I am so excited to talk about this one.
Yeah.
And also, Kaulin, don't think I forgot. You're supposed to be playing Chrono Trigger, man.
I've been working on it. It's been a big month,
update.
though. So,
we'll get an update. I think it'll go hand in hand. It'll be a good conversation to have if I'm playing some Chrono Cross and you're playing some Chrono Trigger.
I may or may not be at the exact same spot that I was last month.
It's okay. You've got 30 days.
It's been a big month. Lots of stuff.
All right, Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition. It includes the really hard to find little one-off story from I think in Television or CDI or something like that.
Yeah, it was something
spin-off.
Like that.
It's got a new coat of paint on it. It's got a remastered soundtrack or rearranged soundtrack with an additional track on it as well. Super exciting. The pseudo sequel to Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
So excited.
The follow
up.
Out. Not a sequel, but the follow.
$20. Give it a shot. Yeah. On 420, bro, Force Unleashed comes to the Switch. It's a port of the Wii one. We talked about that when we recapped the Nintendo Direct last month.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting version of the game. I think when people think about the Force Unleashed, a lot of them think about the 360 and PS3 version. This is not that version. This is an upgrade version of the PS2 version that came to the Wii that has a 2-player battle mode, has a little bit of motion controls. It'll be cool. I'm going to try it out, and we're going to be able to talk about it.
I might check it out. We'll see.
Then in between 420 and 429, nothing until Switch Sports. Again, talked about this. I was able to participate in the closed network test and play a couple of the games. This is a day one purchase, a day one stream. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
How was the closed test?
It was super, super fun. It's it's what you expect. It's Wii Sports with the extra fixins, with all the modern capabilities of online gaming. It felt so sound. It felt so similar to what I had done, but with a nice fresh coat of paint. Kaulin, you were right. Correction from last time. You can use either the Miis or these new freaks, so you'll be able to play as,
There's nothing more that I like to hear than Kaulin, you were right. My favorite phrase.
Yes.
Favorite.
Too good. Too good.
Here's a real question: are you going to be wearing your bowling shoes the night of?
No, but I will be wearing the Switch garter belt.
Oh yes, the garter.
The bowling shoes sound mandatory.
I think so. Yeah. A little aside, did you guys see where Nintendo actually tweeted a promo for the bowling in this game? And evidently recently there's been this bowling porn animation.
I saw something about that, yes.
And I was like, what is going on? Why are all these replies so weird? Like, what is the meme here? And evidently it's like some like rule 34 type thing going on. And I'm like, poor Nintendo, man. It's internet.
Nobody is safe.
No, internet is weird.
No one is safe from the rule. You know what we didn't talk about tonight that I don't even want to talk about? Well, let's do a little segment I just invented. All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you've seen it, I really liked the fingers in the air for if you've heard of these games. Okay.
Please be Morbius. Please
non-game related. Give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or no thumb at all if you haven't watched it. Halo TV series. No thumbs. Thumb down. All right.
I haven't watched it.
I'm sorry. If you haven't seen it?
If you haven't seen it, no thumb.
Oh, no thumb then.
All right,
sorry.
2 no thumbs. Listen, I'm giving it a thumbs up. It's kind of shitty, but it's like free on YouTube, so go check it out.
How many times have they said John?
I don't remember. I don't remember anything that happened in the first episode. I just remember not being that annoyed by it. So that works for me. Moon Knight. Moon Knight episode 1. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I have not watched it, but it's not because I don't want to. I just normally wait till there's like 3 or 4 episodes out before I watch these things.
So it was fantastically weird. Go watch it.
Yeah, it was.
I'm
weird,
excited to watch it.
And it was super fun. Really good to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited.
The Oscars, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Does the slap count?
Who cares?
I watch the slap a lot of times.
Big thumbs down on that. All right, that wraps up.
Hold on. Morbius, thumbs up or thumbs down?
No thumbs. No thumbs allowed for Morbius. We don't pay money for that.
quick side story, actually. I was in a thing today, and I was talking to some of my classmates, and they're like, "Oh my God, have you?" This was a girl. I'm sorry, I should have prefaced that. "Oh my God, have you seen Morbius?" And I'm like, She literally said, if you like Vampire Diaries, you'll like Morbius because it's got vampires and romance and everything. And it's like a Marvel movie, but it's not like where you have to watch the other Marvel movies. And it was so good. And it was like one of the best movies I've seen. Jesus. And I'm just sitting there like,
I need to leave this place.
I just cringed at you comparing a Marvel movie to Vampire Diaries.
Oh my, yeah, that's exactly what she said. And I was like, no, please stop talking. And she's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a Spider-Man villain or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, but don't think about Spider-Man when you think of Morbius, because that just ruins Spider-Man.
I got one left. Obi-Wan trailer.
I think I saw it. I think I saw the most recent one.
We'll take a questionable thumbs up. So that's 4 thumbs for all of you at home. All right, FrateTrain. Thank you so much for joining us. Wait, let me take a second to thank FrateTrain. FrateTrain is an internet stranger who I've never met in real life, but has been so fun to have around. He streams, I stream, we pop into each other's stuff. Kaulin introduced me. Super awesome having you here as our first guest. We're obviously just getting this thing off the ground. It's a marathon, not a race. You've been on here for almost 3 hours with us, hanging out, tech testing, and getting this stuff done. Perfect first guest. Added a lot of value to the show. And first and foremost, appreciate your time. Second, appreciate those hot takes. Good stuff, man. You got to come back and join us again.
You can actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I cut you off in your
thank you speech.
I'm sorry. Well, okay, I'm just gonna keep going because I've already ruined it. But we met FrateTrain because of my number 2 game of the year last year, The Forgotten City. I was streaming it and he popped in, and downhill from there. But yeah, FrateTrain's great. FrateTrain, what are give us your socials? Where should people find you at?
Yeah, so twitch.tv /FrateTrain 16 FRATE train. Also on Twitter, same thing, FrateTrain 16. And that's it. I don't have a YouTube or anything as of yet.
Nice.
So
hell yeah.
Nice. Work in progress.
It's always a work in progress.
Show some love to FrateTrain.
Yes. Where do they find you?
Jake twitching. Jake twitching, like twitching, but with no G.
No G.
Fucking everywhere except TikTok, but probably honestly, TikTok coming soon. I don't know. I gotta play the game.
TikTok's great. It's easy to just drop clips in there and let them be.
Yes, feels so easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can find me, Kaulin, Kauline _ on Twitch, or Kauline elsewhere, like Twitter, TikTok, or YouTube, specifically YouTube. Check out my YouTube. This is where, if you're watching us on YouTube, we have an audio format of this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can get your podcast, pretty much, except for the ones where you can't get it. Just let me know, so I'll put it on there. There's like a million podcast apps, by the way.
For sure. And listen, I think I've done us a disservice underplaying how many people access this thing, whether they've been watching us live or watching it on YouTube or listening to it via podcast apps. Because listen, GameList got a little bit of traction, and it's pretty nice. It's starting to get some listeners in here. So we appreciate you if you've spent any time with us. If there's anything that you can do for us, if you're listening to this, if you're absorbing this, if this is blessing your ears or eyes in any way, do us a favor and just go find us somewhere else too. Just do one other thing for us, whether that's follow FrateTrain or follow Kaulin, or download the audio version in addition to the YouTube version you just watched, or tune into one of our streams, or leave a comment. Anything that you can do helps us grow, and it makes a huge difference, especially when our numbers are, truly in the dozens. But I think last month I was referring to it like there was 3 people that are listening, and to be honest, it's fucking more than that, and that's so dope.
Yeah, we appreciate all you guys, and this is just a little startup, but we're enjoying ourselves. We hope you guys enjoy listening, because of viewers like you. We get to do this podcast.
All right, FrateTrain, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah,
thanks for having me, guys.
That's GameList, baby.
Bye. Wait, when do I do my signature? Bye.
You have a bye?
Bye.
Bye.
That's what I do.
Good luck finding the place to cut that in the edit.